Okay, we are live, everybody. Hi. We got Kurt Wadsworth's daughter here.
Hello.
Hey, everybody. We're
Thank
here
you.
with Kurt Wadsworth's daughter, somebody that actually knows Kurt inside and out. And it's time to kind of set the record straight about what's going on with the Dylan case. And like we always try to do here, is bring the focus back onto Dylan and that he's missing and stop with all of this riffraff and, you know, conjecture.
Do you want to
So
answer this real quick, just so we could clear that up as far as because I have that comment pinned. It says, "What are we helping the Wadsworth for exactly? Why can't Kurt for the PayPal?" Do you want to
yeah,
explain
let's
how that's
talk
hurt?
about that,
How that's
Sammy.
hurt?
Uh-huh. Cool. Right now, everything in that town has been affected by all of these rumors and all of this misinformation. The businesses are hurting. Everyone in that town is affected. My dad has went out searching almost on a daily basis for Dylan. He spends all of his time trying to figure out where Dylan is. He can't even wrap his mind around going to work at this point, nor does he have his equipment that he needs because it is out there on Dylan's property in the crime scene. So at this point, I'm supporting my dad. I'm paying his electric bill. Everything he's doing is on my dime because he can't work right now.
And you're paying for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of this, your dad, Kurt, and his brother, your dad has the only restaurant in town,
My
right?
uncle does.
Your uncle does the Cowboy Bar.
Mm-hmm.
And they are struggling out there because of all the rumors that
Yes.
has been happening. So business in Montello has gone down. People don't stop in the town anymore, right?
People don't even drive through there. This is summertime. It should be busy. We're not seeing the traffic through there. We're not seeing people. People aren't wanting to stop. What we're getting is strange people driving through wanting to look at things to get information to put on YouTube. And that's all they're doing.
So, do you think you don't have a lot of media there?
None.
People, none really. Okay, okay.
None.
I was thinking maybe there would be like a lot of reporters and okay.
No. The only
And
reporter that's been out there came from Salt Lake.
okay, I see.
Can we talk about this because this keeps coming up,
Yes.
and this is we'll probably have to address it a few more times during this live because I personally have probably addressed it 4 times. I know Tiff, you've addressed it a few times. From my understanding, and Sammy can speak on this as well, the 200,000 a year that you guys heard in that recording, he wasn't saying he made 200,000 a year this year, last year, or maybe even in this decade. It was something that he did at one point. He was talking about a specific time where he made that, and I think he said 26 days, not even in a year. So he might have even made more than that in a year.
Are you talking about in reference to Dylan or Kurt?
Kurt. So Kurt had said in this recording, I made 200,000 in like something like 26 days.
And I think that number is wrong. I believe he was actually saying he made it was like 20,000 or something. But no, he's never made $200,000 in a
Okay, not
year.
like in a while ago. I almost thought he was
No.
talking about like when he was younger, like way back. Okay.
And no, not even then. You're talking when I was even younger and the jobs that he did, he was, doing odd jobs, plumbing jobs, things like that. He didn't make that kind of money. Houses were only costed you $30,000 back then. Your minimum wage was less than $2 back
So
then.
he was talking about, because I know people are going to want to ask this. He was talking about like if the product is good, that's why he made it, because the product was good. So now everybody's assuming that it was drugs. That's what the people were saying. That what does that mean? Product is good. So you're saying that he just messed up on the numbers then.
I think so. Yeah. And when you're talking about product, that would be my uncle and his bar and having the food and different things. Because my uncle's made $200,000 in a year through his business, but he's not seeing even $30,000 or $40,000 this year.
Okay. Okay. So, do you know Dylan? Have you met Dylan?
I have. Yes. Yes, I do.
And so, have you met him with Kurt? Like, has your dad introduced you, or?
Yes. Dylan has come to my house many times. I was actually down in Nevada the days before he disappeared, and I saw him. I actually spoke with him on the Friday before he disappeared.
Oh, wow. Okay. That Friday? Are you serious?
Yes, that Friday. He came into the town of Montello that morning, and my dad was out talking to him in the parking lot. I stepped out there to talk to him, and our whole conversation was about his truck.
Wait, what about his truck?
Well, we noticed that he'd washed it. He didn't normally wash his truck. That was something that wasn't normal for him. But his truck was so messy and so dirty that he told us he spent 2 hours pressure washing it the day before to get the outside somewhat clean. And he was pointing out some of the damage on his truck and things that needed to be fixed. We started talking about the front, where it has the dent and the crack all the way down the front and the Ford emblem's missing. He was telling me the story about how this last winter he had a snowmobile trailer on the back that had 4 snowmobiles on it. He pulled into a parking lot, hit ice, and slid into one of those pillars that just sat high enough that it dented his hood all the way down. And that's what broke the front of his truck. And he was talking about that. And I actually cracked the joke that the only reason the truck was still running is because his Ford emblem was gone. We made comment that we knew he didn't wash his truck very well. The wheel wells still had a lot of dirt in them, were still pretty messy, but the outside looked pretty good. The inside of his bed looked pretty good. And that was where his focus was. That was what he was trying to clean. The inside of his bed was a mess with grease and oil and diesel and different things in there that you couldn't put anything in there without getting messy.
Okay, so cool. Another witness that could confirm that he did pressure wash it, and your dad was talking about the oil and stuff. Okay, wow. Here's a specific. So Black Dove says, zavgirl, Kerr said he made 2,360 days. So I guess in a year, working in a computer, bringing in product. So I don't know.
No, I don't think that's ever been said, and I've never heard that. So I'm not sure where they're getting that. Again, there's a lot of things that are out there that are being misconstrued and turned around. And no, he's never made that money.
Okay. All right. Let me see if there's any other questions. Bella, do you have anything you want to ask while I'm looking?
I starred a couple. So again, with King Samoan OG says, can you please ask her why there was a 19-year-old boy living in his trailer with him when he could have just stayed at the motel 2 doors down?
So here's this kid who's actually out there trying to make a living, doesn't have a full-time income coming in. How do you afford to spend $75 a night on a single room in a motel that you can't even eat at? These aren't rooms with kitchenettes or anything. There's a microwave, but they're very expensive. For that little town, those rooms are very expensive. Dylan didn't have a lot of money at his disposal. His money was going back into his farm. It wasn't money he was just blowing on a motel. My dad, and he didn't stay with my dad. He stayed in a motorhome that was empty, that actually is parked out behind where we all park. That's where he stayed, not where my dad is.
So did you kind of look at the relationship like a father-son kind of relationship? Is that what you got from it?
He was a mentor to Dylan. My dad has done a lot of work with Dylan. They've spent a lot of time fixing things on his farm, and that's exactly what it was. He was more like a father figure. And I know Dylan looked up to him that way.
Kathleen wants to know, where's the backhoe now?
It is sitting out by the grain shed still.
Okay, so it's still there. All right, That's what I was thinking.
It is the only tractor that did not belong to Dylan that has not left the property. Everyone else that he had borrowed things from and used different pieces of equipment from have been picked up, other than my dad's backhoe. It is still there.
So, so then when Mimi24 says he took the backhoe, though,
he moved it from next to where Dylan's camper was. That is where he fixed the main line. He went down there the Tuesday after Dylan went missing. They had my dad go out and drain the pond. He used his backhoe in doing that. And it was there still for another 10 days. It was about 10 days later. They asked him to come out and fix the main line. They needed to get water on the crops. So my dad went out again and worked with Dylan's grandfather, fixed the main line. And on that day is when he drove his tractor down and parked it on the other end of the property. He has another job to do out there for the man that is leasing the actual land where that seed shed is. So that's why his backhoe's there.
Okay. I don't think that the Gina M says, why won't the FBI release the backhoe?
They will, but he has another job to do right there on that property. And until they can clear the property and tell him he can do that job, there is no point in bringing a backhoe 30 miles back into Montello just to take it back out there again. That job needs to be done before he can move it. And on top of that, he can't focus to do any work. He is more worried about finding Dylan than working.
Where was Kurt Saturday from morning to night? Were you?
There was 15 of us. We got up that morning. We went out into the mountainside in Montella. We went riding on ATVs and side-by-sides. We came back into town about 4 o'clock. And then me and my dad stayed there in the town while the rest of our crew went up onto the mountain to the copper mines. And then they all came back at about 7:30, and we hung out right there in the Cowboy till about 1, 2 in the morning.
So Dylan was not there that morning, right?
No,
Okay,
no.
'cause there was a rumor
Never
going on that
saw
he was
him
there.
on Saturday at all. And I don't know where that rumor started. I questioned that way back when the PI got involved, because he had put out a poster showing that Dylan was seen in Montello on the 28th in the evening, which was a complete lie. He was not.
So I have a question, because a lot of people have asked in my chat about James Brenner. Was your dad aware that he was a violent person, and did he have any say in putting him next to Dylan?
No. None of us knew how bad his record was. We all learned over time that he was kind of a hothead, and that was only after knowing that he had gotten into those couple fights around town. There was mention of him being a felon. No one knew why. He's never explained to anybody why he was a felon to start with. So, and most people down there, I mean, if you start looking around the town, more than half of those people down there have some sort of record. So it's not really a big deal. People don't judge them based on their record. So it wasn't something that was like, oh, well, you're a violent person, we don't want you around. Nobody knew. The only reason he's out there where he was is because he got offered a job out there with the gentleman that was leasing the land prior to Dylan actually buying that property. Dylan was actually working there with the same owner or the guy that leased the place. Dylan and Ed worked for the same guy.
So first, some words of encouragement from Taboo, in my opinion. Thank you for talking and sharing with everyone. You're brave. Thank you, Taboo. And then there was some other questions. Okay, so can we address this? Thank you, Christy, for asking. The elephant in the room. Finally, from somebody who actually knows Kurt. Does Kurt dress in drag? Have you seen him?
No, never. I actually made the joke to him a couple weeks ago, and I said, I'm kind of tired of all this rumor. I said, maybe it's time for you to put a dress on and just log around town and let everybody film you. And he laughed at me. He says, I don't have a dress. And I says, well, I can ask the locals if they can bring you one. We could find you one. No, he doesn't dress in drag. He never has. This is just a bunch of made up rumors. This is what people do when they don't like people.
Yep. And the people that said it, had they ever? Okay, so let's address that right now. So, okay, this is what we hear. We hear that the Bergs, so Ellen and Dylan Berg, have said, oh yes, your dad walks around in drag all day long out there in this town. And then there's also been talk that your brother Aaron has confirmed that his dad is in drag. So can we address that?
Let's start with the first person that said something about my dad being dressed in drag was actually my cousin. She got brought into this. Her name was Alicia. And then Dylan got brought in. Well, she claimed that Dylan had told her this. She had never seen it, so it was hearsay to her. Then Dylan claims that he never said that to her and that Kurt was just eating a cookie. Then Dylan said he was eating spaghetti and that was why his lips were red. Then Dylan said he's never seen him dressed in drag. Again, this is just a person making up shit. I don't know why. I don't know what Dylan's deal is either. I've never met him. I don't know. And some of the stuff that even Ellen has said has made me very mad. She called me after the first time she talked to Jim Terry. She went out of her way to find me, to tell me that she hated him and she'd never speak to him again because he was just an asshole. And then turns around and goes live with him again. But she forgot to add the part that she actually slept with my brother Aaron. They brought my brother's name into this. They're the ones that did that. And she actually slept with my brother years ago when he was down there doing work on the saddle sore when she was the one owning it.
Ellen?
Ellen did.
Oh my
Ellen did.
gosh.
Yes, she did. And my brother is not a credible person either. He is sitting right now in federal custody for 5 drug trafficking charges. These aren't little charges. These are trafficking meth and trafficking fentanyl. He's got so much trouble, and he is looking at probably 60 years to life sitting in prison. This isn't a credible source of anything. My dad hasn't even seen him in years. They don't get along. My brother does drugs. My dad doesn't agree with that. They don't get along. So of course my brother's going to say shit and try to drag anybody's name through the mud. That's just what he's going to do. That's what people do when they have nothing better to do.
Yeah. Thank you, Hotspot, for the super sticker. Hotspot says, Dylan and Ed worked for who? Is Dawn related to Dylan?
No, Don's not related. Don was out there working with the gentleman that owned the land prior to who owns it now, where the grain shed is. And Ed, I don't know where that name just came in. It's actually Jim and Dylan that worked together. And Don worked with them too. But Don has also been friends of the Rounds family for years.
And can you tell us a little bit about the Rounds family and their relationship to the Wadsworths? Can you speak on that? Like, how far back does that go?
So my dad met Dylan about 3 years ago out there working with the guy that had the property before. And that was the first time he'd ever met anyone in the Rounds family. And we know that I have other family that lives where the Coolies lived when they were younger that knew them. But I didn't know them. My dad didn't know them till just the last few years.
We were told that the Coolies and the Wadsworths, there's maybe a lot of brothers, so that might be, some of them might have more to do than others. But we were told that they go back quite a few generations by somebody in your family. I won't say who that is. But yeah, so that was, I guess, the Coolies instead of the Rounds. So on Candace's side, can you speak to that? Do you know anything about that?
So after Dylan went missing and I was looking through like the official Dylan page and things like that, I did notice a woman commenting that had the name Cooley Wadsworth. And that I kind of thought that was odd. So I sent her a message and I asked her. She's married someone that's in the Wadsworth family, but I don't even know who her husband is. I don't know how he's related. So I don't know how that relationship affects anything to start with because I don't even know who the person she's married to. And yes, I have an aunt that used to live across the street from Candace's mother. And though they know them, but I didn't know that till the second week of all this going on when my aunt called me and told me about that.
And Humanimal says, thanks for speaking up. It's an awful situation to be in. Thanks for the positive energy.
It's very awful. This has been a nightmare since this started. I mean, it's just, this went in a way that I wouldn't have even imagined it would have went in. And they've all lost sight of what this is actually about. And this has went off onto this course of gay or not gay and all this other stuff that has nothing to do with finding Dylan. Nothing. That is the whole point of this, is finding Dylan. And all they have done is point fingers at my family that had nothing to do with this. We had more than 15 people in town that weekend. I was down there Wednesday. We had people come in on Thursday. We had more people come in on Friday. We were all there till Monday. We know where all my uncles were that whole time. And why the media seems to think they need to point fingers at them is beyond me. They had nothing to do with it. And they've got people involved like Ty Corbin that seem to think he's going to solve this. Is that because he wants the $100,000? Because Ty Corbin knows nothing. He didn't know Dylan. He didn't even come into this till 20 days after Dylan was missing. And now all of a sudden he thinks he's going to find him. No, there's something else going on with that guy because he knows nothing. His information that he shares is hearsay that he gets from my aunt and my uncle's ex-wife. And I think that needs to stop because it is bullshit. Ty has more to say than anybody else and he knows nothing. It's amazing.
I think it's fair to say that Ty and Kurt don't get along, right?
It wasn't that they didn't get along, because they did to an extent. But when you start doing these kind of things, you ruin relationships. That's for sure. And I mean, it's people down there, put it this way, they tolerate people. Doesn't mean they like each other, but they tolerate people. It's a small town. It's hard to
Mhm.
go anywhere and not see someone that you don't like. That's just how it is.
Yeah, thank you. So wait, sorry, put up the wrong thing.
Yeah,
So
put in-
again, this question's going to keep coming up over and over again. Everyone is saying, did you, Sammy, end up hearing the call that was played that was between Salty and your dad?
Yes.
Okay. So in that, he says that he made $200,000 a year. This is the same question again that you tried to answer earlier. He said that he made $200,000 a year, I guess, in 360 days, working 2 hours a day on a computer with product.
Yeah. My dad doesn't even hardly know how to run a computer. So I think something's wrong with that question there. I haven't actually heard that part of the question. I've listened to portions of that I've heard replayed, because of course I wasn't there for that conversation, but I've heard portions of that replayed with different shows. But something's not right with that. There's something missing there, because he doesn't do things with a computer. He doesn't know how to use a computer that way. He's never sold anything on a computer.
Okay. Yeah, because there's a lot of questions about that. That's why
He has a
maybe.
hard time running his smartphone that's not even truly a smartphone. This is
Okay.
not his generation. This is something that's been, people in that age that are 60, not all of them get into these technology things. And my dad's not one of them.
Okay. Do you know? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, you're-
The Scooby Life wants to know, why are you speaking instead of Kurt?
Because I know just as much as him, if not more, but I can keep the things straight. And I don't need any more of this mix up or tearing things apart and tearing him down. We've had enough of it. I mean, he did try to speak. And when he did, all that happened was more crap came out. More people tore things apart. More people twisted things. That's why.
Was there a fight ever? I heard about some fight between. I don't even know who it was. What between Kathleen? Can you elaborate on what the fight was about? Was there a fight that happened
I think they're going
after?
to be
I think it
talking.
was
Are they
Ty
talking about the
and
tie and
I think
yeah.
I'm trying not to.
So
I
she
don't know
knows
where
all
all the
about
drama.
that.
Oh,
Yeah,
you do?
yes, I heard about it. This is a small town again. I get phone calls daily with everything that goes on. I don't have to be there to know what's going on. And that was the day that Salty came out to Montello. He had already spent several hours talking to my family. And of course, he was supposed to meet up with Ty Corbin, because that was the PI's guy who knew everything. So Ty doesn't live in Montello. So when Salty told him he was almost to town, then Ty's got to get out there. He lives over in Wells. That's an hour away. So Ty shows up. He doesn't come into the bar. Ty does not go into my uncle's bar. So he wanted to meet him at the gas station. So Salty walked to the gas station, talked to Ty for a few minutes. Well, my dad walked down there because he was thinking that maybe Salty was trying to do something that was fishy. So he walked down there to talk to them all. And then Ty called into Doug's show while they were live and told him that my dad they'd just gotten into a fist fight, which was a complete lie. Mike then called into the PI and told him, "This is bullshit. Ty is lying. There was no fight. I'm standing right here." And then
Okay.
if you watched that show, Jim sat there and said something totally different that made it sound like something different. Because I even called Salty out on that. And I asked him, "Why in the hell did you call the PI and do this and that?" And he says, "No, that is not what was even going on." So, and I told him, I says, "Well, Jim made that look like a whole different situation than what was going on. But no, there was no fight. And I'm tired of all the rumors of them saying my dad was arrested. He's never been arrested throughout any of this. Not once. There's been a
Okay.
lot of that being said. No, he has talked to several detectives several times. He has handed over his phone. He got interviewed on June 4th by 4 different detectives from the 2 different states. They took his phone. They looked over it. They downloaded it. They had nothing. They handed it back to him. So that needs to stop too. He has handed over his phone. There was nothing of use on it. He's been interviewed by the FBI several times. I've talked to the FBI several times. He's never been told he was any sort of a suspect in this ever. So all that needs to stop.
Okay. Do most people have to use two phones because of bad service? Kathleen Hutchison,
In
thank you for the
Montello?
super chat. Yeah.
No,
No. Okay.
no. It's a small town. I can't even tell you that hardly anybody would even have the money to have two phones, unless it's like a husband and wife and they both have their phones. I
Okay.
mean, that's just not a thing.
Okay. What about do you have any speculation on a motive for Dylan? Do you think the right people are in jail, or do you think family involvement? Thank you, Hotspot, for your super chat.
And that's a hard one because even from the start of this, we know Jim's a hothead, but we didn't know his record. We didn't know the extent of what he had done in the past. I still, even him being named a suspect, I still am not sure that he did that alone. But I don't know who else would have been out there at the time. I still have this hunch that somehow Chase will end up coming into this as a suspect. There's been a lot happen with Chase, which you guys have heard about, the guns that were found in his possession that were stolen from out in Montello. I mean, it may come out when they find Dylan that, one of those guns was used that Chase had. I don't know. I don't know how Jim could have done anything in a manner to harm Dylan that would have not left any evidence.
Yeah, unless you think the rain could have cleared out if there was any DNA or blood, because it rained that day, right?
It rained a lot out there, but that's the thing. Nothing's been released that said exactly where this happened or, that kind of stuff. So if it happened in the grain shed, obviously there's no rain in there. If it happened outside, I would imagine that even with rain, if there was blood and things like that, wouldn't that have just been drove into the ground? Wouldn't a cadaver dog been able to pick up on that? That's something I don't know. I would imagine, because a body being under dirt, a cadaver dog can pick up the smell. So why would they not pick up the smell of blood being on that dirt either?
It's true. Yeah.
It's
maybe
just like
they did. Maybe they just haven't told us.
And that's the thing. Maybe they did, but nothing's been said. And that's the things. We can speculate all we want. That isn't going to solve anything because we don't know.
That's true. So do you think Dylan's gay?
No. I actually looked, when I got asked how to describe Dylan, the way I describe Dylan is, I'm sure everyone has watched Gold Rush and they know who Parker is. Parker was a very driven child and grew up to be the man that he was because of his grandpa. And he had something to prove to his grandpa. That is how I look at Dylan. He had something to prove. And he was going to prove to his grandpa that he could do what he set out to do. He wasn't gay. He didn't have an interest in having a girl. And if you've ever been out there to where he was, even in the town of Montello, someone that's 19 isn't going to find a girl that's going to want to live this desert life with no power, no internet, no running water, in the middle of nowhere in a desert that's 100 and something degrees every day, where your boyfriend's working 12, 14 hours a day. Why would you? That wasn't the type of environment that I could imagine him having a girlfriend in the first place.
No, I agree with you on that. I definitely do. I think he was focused on his.
Yeah, that doesn't mean he wasn't interested in women. He'd always told my dad that once he had that place up and running and he was making money, the women would come for him.
Yeah, and there's probably not a ton of women out there, right? It's such a small town. So,
but I don't think he meant someone from that town. I think he just meant in general when they realized what he could do and that he was going to make, actually be able to grow stuff on this land that everyone said you couldn't grow stuff on, and he was going to make money doing it, that he would find someone. And really, you got to find someone that's attracted to the same things that you're doing.
It's true. Yeah. Because it's a different kind of a lifestyle. Yes,
it is. Definitely. So no, I don't think he was gay. He just, at 19, not everybody's worried about having a girlfriend. That wasn't his worry.
I agree on that one.
And that's what set him kind of apart from everybody, right? And that's another reason, like your dad took to him, is your dad has said, and if I'm wrong, let me know, that he was kind of an old soul, that Dylan's an old soul, and he looked at him as like a 30-something-year-old because of all the knowledge he had about land and about what to do, and his drive.
Uh-huh.
And that isn't typical. And like a lot of 19-year-olds, I don't want to generalize every 19-year-old out there, it's not a normal thing for someone to be, and I see Autumn Renee in chat, so I'll say industrious.
Right. And that's the thing. This generation isn't like that. It's kind of more of a rare form to find that. But that was also part of how Dylan was raised. That was where his dream came from. That was what he wanted to do. That didn't mean at 19 he needed a girlfriend. Why does everybody think that you got to have a girlfriend at that age? I have a 19-year-old. Guess what? He doesn't have a girlfriend. He's more interested in building his life and having something before he needs to have a girl.
Yeah. So Tennille Suzanne wants to know, what has Ty lied about? Serious question.
So where is Ty searching? And why is he searching? He knows nothing. He doesn't know Dylan. He doesn't know where to search. He is just searching random places. I feel like Ty's doing this for money because, of course, now he's getting gas money and all these things. I think Ty's lied about a lot of the places he claims he's searching, like on a daily basis. He's not out searching on a daily basis. He did this whole thing of trying to set up a search and rescue day out there where they were going to go searching all these places, but he needed people out there with side-by-sides and four-wheelers. Ty drives a small car. It's dirt roads out there. Not every dirt road is good. It's a lot of miles of dirt road. It is not the kind of conditions you just want to be driving your little car down to be searching for people. There is a lot of mountains. There's a lot of places you can't get to with a car. So I don't believe that he's been out searching every day. I don't. He spends an awful lot of time sitting at my aunt's house. That I do know.
Ty spends a lot of time at your aunt's house?
Really?
Yes, sir. Well, sitting where she's living. She's squatting in a home that's not hers. And Ty spends a lot of time there.
Do they have something going on between them? Your aunt?
I don't know, other than them being friends. She's married to another guy that lives there with them.
Oh,
But,
okay.
So one of the sayings in Montello is you don't lose your girlfriend, you just lose your day. I'm serious. That's one of the sayings down there.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Wow. Did you put that question up, Bella?
Yes. So
Okay.
Racing the Moon has been asking from the beginning, and I don't know anything about the slot machine, so it must be on another channel. I don't know, something I've never heard of. But who owns the slot machine, Sammy?
So the slot machines are actually owned by the state, by the Nevada Gambling District. They put them in different bars and gas stations and different places like that throughout the state. And when they do that, they basically lease the space that they put their machines in to the person that owns the business.
Okay.
So yes, both bars down there have slot machines in them.
Okay. Did James Brenner live in your dad's trailer for a year?
He lived with my dad in a different trailer. My dad had a different trailer on his property, but Jim did live with him. Jim came to Montello some years back, had some property out there, a little area up towards the hills, and he had been having some issues with his vehicle. He went home one day, couldn't get his truck all the way up to his place, so he parked it down the road. He could see it out of his window, and at some point later on in that day, some people pulled up by his truck, started taking everything, his generators and things out of the back of his truck. He came out of his home, shot into the air, hoping to scare them away from his truck, was running down the road. By the time he got there, everything was gone from his truck. The next day, he went into Montello to tell everybody what had happened, and they do a food bank down there. He'd went over to the food bank. While he was in town, he got a phone call that his little trailer shack thing had been blown up. Someone blew it up. That was never looked into. Nobody knows who did it. No idea. Don't know who stole his stuff. That was never looked into. Those kind of things don't get checked out there. But he had nowhere to live. He had nowhere to go. So my dad, out of feeling sorry for him, took him in. Told him, I got a trailer here. No one's in it. You can stay here. He ended up staying with him for a year because he had nowhere to go and no money.
So your dad wanted to help him out. So, okay.
Yeah. And that's how most of my family is. They're willing to help you out. They don't, until you do something wrong to them, they're there to help you. And yes, there's people in that town that have done things, and my dad no longer likes them and they no longer like him. And that's just that. And those people are the ones that think they can turn around and make up rumors and spread lies.
So, Mandy Collins wants to know, your dad said in an interview he can find Dylan, and with that said where he is.
No, what he's actually said was he's talked to a lot of psychics, and these psychics have given him clues and different things, and he's, trying to figure these things out. And a comment that he did make was he did know Dylan the best. Out of the last 6 or 8 months of his life, my dad has been very close with him, knew his habits, knew the things that he did down there in that area. His family didn't know that stuff down there. They'd never been to his farm. They'd never been down there. My dad knew that stuff. My dad knew Jim. My dad knows Don. My dad knows Chase. My dad knows Robert. So when it comes to putting clues together and asking specific questions about people, my dad knows a lot. So he is a great asset to have to answer those things when it comes to, not only the family asking questions, which they haven't been doing, but the police, the FBI. There's been many talks where things have been talked about and questions have been answered that he's been able to answer for them, that's helped out with things. So he feels like out of all the people that knew enough about Dylan and the area together, he is that person.
Yeah, I could see that. Why does he have all those wives in another country?
Why does it matter? That's what makes him happy. He has women that talk to him, that he talks to, that he's chose to take on and say they're his wives. Does that mean he's a bad person? No. Everybody has their choice of religion. If he chooses to live that, that's what he chooses.
All right. So,
yeah, we have a lot of others.
what
I
about
think
Chase? Do you know Chase?
Yeah.
What
I've
do you
met
think about
Chase
him?
many times.
Okay.
Chase
he's capable?
is, very capable, very
Okay.
capable, very capable. I was in the town a year ago on the 4th of July when he got a phone call of his ex that he has the 3 older kids with had overdosed. I watched him go outside and punch the outside of the bar and just started having this total rage fit over things. He's done a lot of things. He's stolen lots of things from people. He's very brazen with those things that he does. And he has got a hell of a record. Very capable of this. The last girlfriend that he had, he choked her, tried to kill her.
Okay, yeah. Wow.
And we've seen that record, and it is pretty scary.
Yeah.
And the fact that Dylan had ran into Chase out near his place the Wednesday before he disappears, and that freaked Dylan out, on top of right after we find out that Dylan's missing, we start hearing through the people in town that Robert had given Chase a ride back out to Lucin on the morning of Saturday. That put Chase right there in that area.
Yep. Yeah, that's suspicious, I feel like.
That
Do you know
was-
Robert by any chance?
I've never met Robert. He just got out of jail last year. He just got out of prison.
Okay.
He was in prison himself for some sort of an attempted burglary, and he stabbed the security guard during it. He ain't got a good record either.
Yeah. Wow.
And I believe the charges he's looking at right now is another theft that he did after he got out of prison.
Do you know if he wets the bed? Because he has like all the hallmarks of being a complete psycho with like hurting animals.
Chase, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, Chase does. Yeah, we found where he'd shot all of his dogs just about a week and a half, 2 weeks before Dylan disappeared. And with everybody out searching for Dylan, they've actually found where all his dogs are, where he shot him and just put him in a hole.
Oh my God. Yeah, he was the one that had all those charges, remember, Bella?
Yes,
with the animal cruelty and stuff. Wow.
No, he's a scary guy. Was he nice to his son? Because like Chase has a son who is about Dylan's age. Did they get along as far as you know?
They did and they didn't. His older son has gotten old enough to realize that his dad is not a good guy. The younger two are still, from what I saw the last time I seen him, they both were still trying to believe in their dad. but their dad used them. They were with him when he would go to people's properties and steal things. And he would have them be his little pack mules to pack stuff out. They were right there while they were doing that. These kids were involved in all that. He forced them to be part of his theft ring.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
and that's horrible. That's horrible.
What-
Thank you, Anna Morris. My feeling is Dylan was targeted, groomed, and victimized. He was far too young to be out there alone.
Well, and I mean, he and that depends on how you look at it. He was an adult. He had the choice to do and be where he wanted to be. There's a lot of people that live out there that are just fine.
Mhm.
There's a reason something happened to him, and that's what we've got to figure out. It wasn't just because he was 19 and out there in the middle of the desert. That's not why people get taken or hurt. There was some reason he was targeted.
What do you think, Sammy? What do you think happened to Dylan?
I've had a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different things, from Chase going after him because we knew there was that conversation over the large check that Dylan had got. He's gotten that $33,000 check, and that went into his hands the week before he disappeared. And that conversation, it got talked about right there in the town. And we know that information got back to them. So, that was one of the theories, that Chase had heard that Dylan had gotten all this money. Who's to say he doesn't know Dylan to know if he keeps money on him or not?
Mm.
So who's to say he didn't go out there to rob him to get money, realized he didn't have any, so he got rid of him? We don't know. That's the thing. I know Jim was mad about things. Jim didn't like the fact that Dylan parked on that property in that shed. Jim would keep the gates locked, wouldn't let Dylan come in, wouldn't let Dylan have a key. So Dylan would take the fence down to get in there. That would also make Jim mad. So was that enough in itself to make Jim mad to want to do something? There was a conversation prior to Dylan going missing about Dylan had told Jim if he didn't stop locking the damn gates that he was going to call the landowner and have him taken off that land so that he didn't have to deal with him anymore. Was that enough of a threat from Dylan that Jim wanted to get rid of him? Don't know.
Wow. Thank you, Minnie Collins. About Troy. Yeah, what do you know anything about the scratches on Troy's arms? That rumor?
Yeah. He was drunk and riding his three-wheeler. He thought it was funny to be up on two wheels, and he flipped it over on himself. His son was standing right next to him. His son went over, picked it up, and he had scratches down his arms from the gravel. Those look totally different than a nail scratch. Totally different. And I know that some people, which would be his ex-wife, made a big deal of it. She even told me, "Oh, those scratches were so bad." And then I talked to other people that seen him, and they're like, "No, they weren't bad at all. It was just like road rash, and it was gone within a couple days."
Okay.
But
Yeah,
had nothing to do with Dylan. Troy knew Dylan on a business level of Dylan coming into his bar to eat. Troy has never been out to Dylan's property.
Okay. Okay.
So
Did I
this
already
is
ask you this one? Oh, sorry.
no. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Will you ask her if she knows Don H. and if he is friends with her dad? King Sam.
Yes. Yes, I've met Don. I've known Don. And yes, he's friends with my dad.
Okay. And you did say he was is that the person you said was friends with Dylan's family, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So he seems like an all right guy. Do you think he's capable of doing anything to Dylan?
I don't. I've never picked up on that sense from Don ever. I don't think Don, I mean, if you think about it, if Don had something to do with this, why in the hell did he even turn over any information to do with Jim?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, if he was involved, why would you even say anything at all? But he turned over the information about Jim bringing the guns to him.
Mm-hmm.
But he could have maybe. Do you think maybe he was scared though that they were going to find out anyway? And if he was upfront, it would, because some people do that to get the heat off of them. You know what I'm saying? To like,
No,
okay,
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I don't honestly think that Don thought that Jim was capable of this either. Because this whole record with Jim, nobody knew. None of us knew the extent of Jim's record. None of us.
wow, that's crazy.
The most we had seen of him was him beating up those two people in town. And those two fights didn't even come out on Jim's side. Jim didn't win those fights.
Oh, what about
got
the
it.
70-year-old man that they said he beat with a chair? Did you
He
see
wasn't, I
that?
don't believe he was 70, but he again got his ass handed to him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He crawled away from those fights. Those were not, Jim was not even a good fighter.
Okay. Interesting. Can you please ask her about the psychic tip? Thank you, Mimi.
Which one?
Right.
So you had multiple, yeah.
Yes. From the very, very start of this, the first week, the stuff that came in that my dad called Justin and Candace about came through my sister to my dad. He was told it was from a psychic, and that they had read, done this stuff and thought that Dylan was being held by a man and a woman somewhere near Montello, near the border, had all this information. So my dad was trying to put together clues and different things. At that point, our only suspects were Chase and Robert. So that was where that went. We need to check into these places because these people know Chase. They might help Chase if they're trying to hold him. Little did he know a couple days later that information actually came from my mother, who was reading her own cards. Not a reliable source. As everybody knows, people that read cards, people that are psychics, those things are not facts. But from that day forward, the finger got turned back on my dad.
Yeah, that's I was surprised when I first heard that too. I'm like, wait, where did that come from? So you said there's been more than one psychic reading? What was another one?
There's been many. There's been many. And that's the problem. My dad is so torn over trying to find Dylan that he spends more than half of his day listening to all these readings that are being done all over YouTube, trying to put together puzzle pieces and clues, trying to figure out how he can help find Dylan. So my dad has come up with these ideas and these theories that he's trying to put together to try to help solve this. And when he talks, he forgets to say, okay, I put this together because I actually listened to a psychic. So that's the part that he forgets to say. He just blurts it out, and everybody takes this like he knew something or he was there. Or, I heard part of the interview that was replayed where he was talking about how he felt like Dylan might have taken off his boots and thrown them at someone that was trying to come after him. This is a theory that's come out with all these different things. We don't know what happened. In fact, we don't even know exactly how his boots were sitting because there's not even a picture. But
yeah, I know. I wish there was a picture. Yeah.
These are just clues and things that he's tried to put together. But from the outside, when you don't know where he's getting this information from, you look at it like he must know something. And he doesn't. He is just trying to put together clues that he thinks is going to help find Dylan. And a lot of it's coming from psychic stuff right now. That psychic stuff isn't my thing. I mean, honestly, if you could use a psychic to solve stuff, why are we here?
That's true. I know. Yeah, that's a good point. Like they should be able to tell us exactly where he is. And
yeah, I mean, but when people are desperate, they turn to anything they can.
Okay, Black Dove. Yeah, I'll get that here. Let's get some of these other questions done, and then I'll try to find that. You talking about on my on
yours?
Video? Okay. I just want to know this real quick. The salty one. Does Ty really have a farm in Montello? No.
Ty had so Ty doesn't even own the place. And just so you know, Ty's real name is actually Todd. And he lives with Phyllis. Phyllis owns some property that sits out on the west side of town down there that they did have alpacas on for a while. No, they don't have $1 million alpaca farm. They no longer live there. It's leased. They live in a place over in Wells because Phyllis has cancer. They don't live in Montello. I don't even know who lives in their place, but it is run down right now. It does not look very good. And it got to the point where Ty was turning his alpacas loose because he couldn't afford to feed them.
Oh my God, like loose in the desert?
Loose in the desert. Yes.
Are you kidding?
Oh
no, I see. So we have a Montello group. And people will post in this group and go, oh, there's an alpaca out here. It's all right. We know whose it is. You know what I mean? It's just the people post this stuff in the group all the time about things that are loose or things that are going on down there. And he would turn his loose. Wow. I really wish Ty would keep his mouth out of this at this point, because Yeah, he can be a searcher and he can go look for things. But at this point, I feel like he's trying to profit off this, and it's all for the wrong reasons. He didn't know Dylan. Is he doing his stuff because he wants the $100,000? I mean, he has no reason to be doing what he's doing with YouTube, with Jim, with any of it.
Oh
So
my
where does
God.
Ty come from? Is that his middle name or something? I'm confused. Why is
I
he's just
don't
going by
know.
like a name to protect
He's
himself?
always went by
maybe
Ty. He's always went by Ty. Everybody
Oh,
in
that's
town
what it
knows
was.
him by Ty,
Okay,
but it's
like
just
a
not
nickname.
truly his name.
Okay, I see. That makes sense. Okay, so
And the whole everything that Ty tries to bring to light is all hearsay. It's all rumors, and it's all has nothing to do with finding Dylan. What does my dad having even 10 wives have to do with finding Dylan? Why is it that Ty thinks those are the kind of things that he needs to get on these shows and talk about?
Right. I don't know. I've never heard Ty, so I can't speak on it. But I mean, God, yeah. Don't lose your alpacas out there. Don't set them free. They're,
Bill, I'll let you pick another question in the start, and I'm going to see if there's any new ones.
Okay, so Raul Thomas says, is there a meth problem in and around Montello? An RSO problem? Who protects the community?
So tell me a town where there isn't a meth problem, for one. And it has become something more prevalent in, I would say, the last 4 years or so. It's one of those drugs that people try and a lot of people get addicted to. A lot of people don't know how to get away from it. So we are finding more and more people are using it. But there isn't a town anywhere that you can't say doesn't have drugs in it. And the fact that it's there, you can't get rid of it. But what does that have to do with finding Dylan? And the police out there, they don't do anything. They honestly don't. I actually had a gun pulled on my family while I was down there over Memorial Weekend by a gentleman. I did call the cops. The cops showed up almost an hour later, and of course the guy was gone at the time. And I got a whole, well, if you want to make a report, we can. But if you do, you got to drive clear back down here for court and all this stuff. And I'm like, you really don't want to do anything with this, do you? No, they don't. They don't want to deal with the problems in Montello. They just don't.
And a lot of small towns, like when they have a big problem, like any drug problem, whether it's meth or it's like opiates, fentanyl, sometimes the cops are in on it and they take a cut because they see all these people making all these drug dealers making all this money, that they will look the other way when it comes to that.
And I can't say that they're not doing that. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. Yep. There was some other.
I know there was one I wanted to, but I just put in there that I wanted to ask. Hold on a second.
Oh my God, it's the same questions over and over.
I know there is a lot of the same ones. We're trying to star all the questions, guys, so we're not like avoiding any. So just we're trying to find them all. So hold on. It was Chase's son with Dylan or with Chase when he asked for a ride. You might not even know, huh?
No, he was not.
Wasn't okay.
His kids have not been back out in Montello since last year when their mom died. They got taken. Custody was given to they're with other family members, and Chase has not had them. Okay.
And then here's another question. And you guys, I am gonna play that little clip that Black Dove timestamp, but I don't see any other questions that he's asking. If I'm missing it, everybody's
I know.
concerned. Get Black Doves like he's the all-time.
He's asking all these questions.
I don't.
You guys are ignoring his questions.
I know. I'm trying.
Where
to
are the questions?
Get everybody's questions, and if I see his, I'll definitely bring it up.
I think we've brought it up like twice so far.
Yeah, we have. Now, if you want me to play, I'll play the recording, but I would like to get some of these questions answered because she has already answered that. And she's obviously doesn't know anything about, it's obviously not true. You know what I'm saying? She already answered the 200,000, but we'll play it in a minute. Let's just answer some of these. So whose car was Kurt referring to in the audio when he said they need to check it? It's been sitting in the town this entire time.
Robert Avilas's mother's car. That is the car that Robert drives. That is the car that we know he gave a ride to Chase in. That is the car that he put gas in on Memorial Day. He came into the little gas station acting very, very fishy. The woman that works there, I've talked to her, and she said she knows he does drugs and he acts a little weird, but she had never seen Robert act the way he was acting. And then about 4 or 5 days later, he tracked her down on Facebook and started asking her, what day was it when I came in and bought gas and paid you with all that change? And started asking some really weird questions, and then admitted to her that he had Chase hiding in that car while he was putting gas in it.
Oh, wow.
Kind of weird.
That is weird.
So we're wondering why that car has never forensically been checked to find out. Because this gal that worked at the gas station actually said to me, I am starting to wonder if they had Dylan in that car on that day also.
Wow.
They were acting very weird. So why has that car not been checked?
Has she said she told the FBI this, right? Did she call this in, or did anybody?
She did. I actually gave her the FBI's number, and I actually told the FBI guy that she would be calling and gave him her number also, so that it went both ways and they knew that they needed to contact each other.
Okay, good. Where did Kurt tell his daughter he was on Saturday? Weren't you with him, right?
Sorry.
Yes,
Didn't
I was
even
with him
know
that Saturday.
That's because she already answered it, so I'm not trying to answer for her, but she answered it earlier already. So, but are
no
there?
thanks. Sorry.
Oh, go
okay.
ahead. Go. Okay, we'll do yours next. Are there cameras in the bars? How can you have slot machines with no cameras?
Cameras aren't required. You live in this little tiny town where they don't even have internet providers. How can they require you to have a camera? And what good does it do other than just recording and looking at it on a computer screen, I guess? But that isn't something that's required by the state. You don't have to have those. And he doesn't have any cameras down there that record. No.
Okay. No thanks. Investigate says, does Jim Brenner have a working vehicle, truck, or car?
He has a vehicle, but it had an overheating issue. He couldn't drive it for more than 20 minutes and it would overheat. So
Thanks for the
he
super
made
chat,
very limited trips in that. Most of the time, his truck went from where he was staying over to Dawn's, and that was as far as it went.
Oh, wait, then how could he have gotten, like, if he did indeed do something to Dylan, like, how would he have gotten Dylan anywhere, though, without a work?
Again, that goes back to, I don't know how Jim did this by himself.
Okay.
Jim had a horse. And last year, he rode his horse into town from Lucin. Because a year ago, he didn't have a vehicle.
Thank you, Joshua Fruck. I forgot to even say thank you for that super chat. And thank you. No thanks. And okay. So next question. Go ahead, Billy.
Charlena wants to know, can you ask her if Kurt has ever had federal charges?
He had some charges way back in the day, in the early 80s, that were dismissed because they were wrongfully brought against him.
Thank you.
And it was for taxes. It wasn't for anything criminal necessarily. It was for taxes. And it wasn't anything to do with him.
I think we might have covered this. Plain Jane. How did Jim go from living with Kurt to living near the grain shed?
He got offered a job by the guy that was he was leasing the property at the time and needed someone out there that could help check over things, watch over things, and be out there. So he offered Jim the job that put him out there. That was prior to Dylan purchasing his property down there.
Thank you. Dorothy McGuire wants to know, was Dylan abused by his father?
I don't know. I can't say that he was. I don't know. I have heard things just like everyone else has heard things, but does that make them true? No. I don't know.
Wait, you heard things after this all happened, or you heard things before this?
After.
Okay.
After. I have heard things brought up and said by people that I wouldn't take as a worthy, trustful source.
Okay.
Have you met Justin?
No.
Okay. Have you met Candace?
No.
Lucas Boyd wants to know, zavgirl, can someone ask her about what she thinks about why the boots were left out there and why they may have been left there in that spot, if she would take a guess?
I felt like that was like almost like a deterrent of some sort. Like they threw them out there to put people on the wrong path.
Yeah. I could see that possibly. But then that would make it look like it was kind of Jim. You know what I'm saying? Because it
Exactly.
was so
It's part of some
weird.
sort of a setup in some way. If it wasn't Jim, then it was part of a setup. Um, Honestly, if Jim did it, why would he throw something like that right there of evidence that would link back to him?
I know we were saying that earlier. Like that doesn't make
That kind of
sense.
seems weird to me too. Did Jim not know they were there? You know what I mean? That's all things that everybody can speculate on because we don't know. We don't know what these sources, the things are that the FBI says that they have to list him as a suspect. We don't know. So, I mean, nothing's been said that, like they were speculating there was blood on the boots. We don't know if there was or not. Nothing has been verified. So, all we can do is speculate. But in the middle of all this speculation, how does that find Dylan?
Right.
I mean,
And that's what we're trying to do here is put rumors to rest. I don't know how many we can put to rest because there's some people that have already made up their minds, which is weird in true crime because crimes in like open active investigations are fluid and they're constantly moving and constantly changing and you're constantly finding out new things about what's going on. And to be so hard held in your beliefs of knowing what you know. I mean, I guess it's like a thing where maybe they don't want to say they're wrong. I don't know what it is. I can't relate to that because I like to keep an open mind, but we're trying here to bring it back to Dylan. Everyone needs to get on the same page. Whoever's out there searching right, however the police want to search, good for you. Good for being boots on the ground and searching. More props to you guys. And we all need to come together for Dylan and stop all this conjecture because it doesn't help. So
No.
what's going on out there as far as with the police presence, like LE presence, FBI presence? What's happening right now out there in Montello?
We see them every once in a while come through and they'll go out for the day and then they'll leave. And then we won't see them again for a few days. And then we'll see them come back to town again. They're not out there every day. I feel like they're at a point where they need to be pointed in the right direction to even know where to look. I mean, you're talking, this area is huge. And without knowing which way to go, there's places that still have never been searched. I heard them mention stuff about Park Valley. I want to know what the tie is to Park Valley other than Chase, because we know that the conversation with Chase, the day that Dylan ran into him, his dad on the phone asked him why he wasn't in Park Valley, that he'd shown up there to pick him up twice in the week before, but he couldn't find him. Is that why they're searching Park Valley? Jim didn't have a vehicle to make it to Park Valley. So I don't understand how they've went that far with things if Jim's their only suspect.
Do you know why Jim was transferred or if he was transferred?
What do you mean by transferred?
Tiff, was he transferred?
He was transferred. Yeah, he was transferred. But yeah, I guess if she knows what, do you know why?
I think it's out of a jail to another location, right?
Yeah.
So the first time he was picked up, which was like, I want to say maybe 3 weeks into this, he was picked up and put in jail by Box Elder County. That was a warrant out of Elko. That was his assault that he had committed a year prior in February out there in Montello, and he'd never shown up for court. I don't understand why they waited so long to even go get him. It's not like Elko didn't know where he was type thing. But Box Elder picked him up on that warrant, and then he got bailed out and went back. It was more than a week later when the FBI got involved, when they arrested him again, and that was over the charges with the gun. And then they decided to change his Elko County charges to federal charges. So that's why Jim has 2 different cases going on.
Makes sense. You're muted, Tiffy.
I just want to clear this up real quick. If Kurt was paid $5,000 for his 2-hour interview, why does he need your money for bills? I could tell you, I never paid $5,000 for that interview or for that audio. I don't know. Did anybody else?
He's never been paid anything.
Yeah, I don't think he has. No thanks.
I think that's a rumor that was started. No thanks. So like what happened with the audio was I don't know if you were here the last time we explained this. So it was sent to 3 creators for us to kind of get a flavor of how Kurt was, but not to play it. That's what we were told. I was told, we were told that only like it was sent to 2 at the time. Then we found out who everybody was. And then it was played. And then, but never was there talk of money or like, I'll give you this recording for money. He just gave it to us. We didn't even know we were going to get it. We just got it.
Yeah.
It was just dropped on our laps. Like never was money even talked about with that. I think that was a conversation from what I hear from other people in the last chat. It was a conversation that was shown, and I don't know if they got the numbers wrong, that maybe it wasn't 5,000. I'm not sure, but yeah, the simple thing to that is he hasn't been paid any money. 5,000, 1,000, right, Sammy?
Nothing. He hasn't been paid anything.
Yeah, I didn't think so, because I mean, we didn't even get asked for any money for it. Yeah, is Kurt? Oh, she did answer that, right? But go ahead, Bella, you could read it.
Okay. Gloria Dellin, she's been there like to Salt Lake, so she kind of knows this case pretty well. Says, is Kurt related to a family of Wadsworths from Salt Lake, which were polygamist in the 1960s through the 70s?
Which family was that?
She asked it a while ago, Gloria Dellin.
Well, I don't even know which family. I mean, I wasn't alive in the 60s and 70s, so I'm not sure which family she's related, what she's talking about. I have family in Utah, yes. But as of now, since I've been alive, none of them are polygamists. So that would have been a past generation that I didn't know.
Okay, so I'm going to play this recording because everybody's bugging me, just that part, to see what you think about it. But while I'm getting it ready, do you want to answer this? It says, Ty has been on several searches for Dylan. How many times has Kurt searched for his best friend, Dylan?
Almost every day.
Yeah.
He has a motorcycle. He has the ability to go places that these cars and trucks don't go. And he has searched and spent days and miles and hours searching for Dylan. He has probably spent more time than anyone else.
And he still thinks, I mean, I didn't ask him that today, but does he still think that Dylan is alive as of right now?
He doesn't want to say that he's not. I think he knows that the likelihood of him being alive is not that great, but he doesn't want to say that he's not.
Yeah. And I mean, he was going with the hope. That's what I got from him. When he's out there searching daily, he's going there with the hope that Dylan is there alive, time's running out, and that he might be able to do something. He is very emotional when he talks about the possibility of Dylan not being alive. This is somebody, we can all walk away from this case, or we can go to bed at night, maybe say a prayer if we're nice for Dylan and for his family. But Kurt is someone that has to live with this constantly. He's in that town. This is someone that knew Dylan very well, and he's dealing with that. And all of this conjecture started about him being in drag. And at the time when that was said, a lot of you guys said, what does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? And now it's like it's taken on a life of its own, which sometimes these cases do that. They will go in the direction of, as things dry up and Ellie isn't coming out with official findings, or the official Dylan Facebook isn't coming out with something. So, yeah.
So they got to have something else to talk about. And that's the sad thing. And why does any of that have anything to do with this? It doesn't.
The most important thing here is Dylan, you guys. If you weren't here on the last time that we said this, we need to keep Dylan in the forefront of everything with this case. And if you're not doing that, then you're adding to the conjecture and the rumors. So just ask yourself, what's important about this to you? Is it trying to help solve something or brainstorm or whatever, or is it just watching a soap opera play out?
I feel like we've been living in a soap opera since this started.
Yeah, definitely. It's been crazy. This case. Okay, so I'm gonna play this real quick because
Yes.
they will
only.
not let me not.
So make sure you go back a little bit, because a lot of times what he's talking to right before kind of leads into it. So I need to kind of hear what it all
Okay.
is to even know.
Okay, let's see here. I wish I knew where it was on the original so we could just listen to it straight through.
Because it might have.
Go ahead. What?
It might have even been something where he was actually saying that, you know, that there's a chance that someone could have been making that kind of money or something. That's the thing. I got to figure out what he's actually talking about.
Wait, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Let me just see the time here. Hold on. What does that say on there? Does that say 1:34? Because I could just get the original then. 1:34:33 up there. Can you see that?
No, I can't. I got to make it real big.
I think that's what it says. Let me just go to the editor, because this is gonna play commercial. It's just gonna be a pain. Hold on a second. Well, maybe put up another question while I'm getting it.
Okay, you got it. You go back to that screen. Yes, Black Dove, you are, and I appreciate it. And I missed it today, Black Dove, but I heard that you and Salty talked. I love that. I want to go back and listen to that. Thank you, guys. If we all put our collective brains together and do this for Dylan and keep Dylan in the forefront, you guys, like, imagine all of the things that can come from that, where we don't have to sit here and keep defending things and everyone has to speak out. Okay, so Humanimal wants to know if how's Dylan's grandfather discovered the land to buy it in the first place? Do you know that, Sammy?
The connection to that place was because he worked for the guy who lived down in the Twin Falls area that he'd met through his family. And that gentleman who was leasing the land is who took Dylan down there at first. And he was working for him. And then he found that land was for sale down there. So he talked his grandpa into helping him buy it.
Thank you. And one more question before we start. Cup of Color wants to know, is Dylan Berg's father Kurt?
No.
Well, I didn't even hear that one. Is that a rumor going around? Wow, that's a new one to me.
I
can't
keep up with these rumors. There's so many of them, and they're just so outlandish.
Well, at least we could put that to bed. Could it be Aaron? Could Aaron, your brother, be the father of Dylan Berg?
Wait, somebody asked that?
No, I just want to get in front of the train.
Nope, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me just play this here. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm sure he convinced his grandpa, I'm making this much. You know, I got all these contracts. I'm just what I'm going to make. I got contracts for $46 an hour or $46 an hour.
And so he needed that help probably to fund it, and then he was paying his grandparents back.
Wait, I better go back to 1:30. It said 1:33. I don't want to listen. I had it on the wrong time. Okay, let's start it about right here just to make sure. Okay.
So so what I say for
$46 an acre.
180 acres times two is 360 times 45. That's 16,000.
Damn.
That's 60,000. I don't know where the other comes in. I'm not sure what the real difference is, but that's half of what we're talking about.
Maybe he could have did some more work.
He done his farm out there too. He done 2 pivots on the other ranch. So it's double that. So that's 16 times.
They're almost 33,000.
Yep, there you go. Because I forgot he planted down the other borrow ranch. He done that. He done the same thing out there.
Wow.
He spent 7 days out there, 7 days here, and he got a $33,000 check, and he supplied everything.
You know what I'm mostly upset about is how Candace accused Dylan of using his grandparents.
Yes, yeah.
That would eat at my heart if my mom told me that. After I'm doing all this hard work, you're going to say I'm stealing from my grandparents?
Right. And I'm agreeing to this kind of money? I mean, my God. You know, and Dylan knew what he could do. I'm sure he convinced his grandpa, I'm making this much. You know, I got all these contracts. I'm just what I'm going to make. I got contracts for $46 an hour or $46 an hour.
And so he needed that help probably to fund it, and then he was paying his grandparents back.
Yes.
It all makes sense.
Yep.
Fucking Kurt, man. Everything makes sense now.
His grandpa was willing to make this kid's dream come true. He's got money in the bank. Well, fuck, why wouldn't I help my grandkid? Especially when he tells me his program, and the money's going to come in. He has a contract signed. It's going to come in. He just needed to.
So he needed the money. He needed that loan, like everybody would do for needing material, gas.
Yep.
He gets his loan from Grandpa. Dylan goes and does the work. Dan pays him the check. Dylan goes straight back to Grandpa. Here's the money. He probably feels real proud about everything he's accomplished.
Exactly. I mean, his grandpa was ecstatic. He's like, man, this kid's fucking responsible as fuck. He brings me the checks, and I divvy out. From there, I pay the fucking loans on the tractor.
And I can see why Dylan would be ecstatic and want to talk about it and be happy about it.
Is this I don't know where it's at exactly. It said 133. Do you really want me to play on mine? I guess I could try, but I'm worried it's the
And everything he's talking about right there is pretty self-explanatory. He's talking about what Dylan did to make money out there that helped funded his ventures on his farm. But it had nothing to do with computers. It's contracts.
No, there is a spot here. Let me just put this timestamp, I guess.
I don't know. I never had a fallout with Justin.
Used to make do, and now I'm making a name. And I'm being taught business like it's nobody's business. At home and
every time a commercial plays, it's like naughty stuff. YouTube smacks creators hard for some stuff.
Oh, wait, were you listening? You could hear that, huh? See,
yes.
that was the problem because they're just, okay. So let me just find it real quick.
Kurt, man, everything made.
Hold on 1 second.
We could still hear it if you.
No, I know. So you're saying 506.42. Okay, yes. I hope it's right on because. All right, let's see. I know. I just don't want to have to worry about getting a commercial. That's what I just got.
He's got big fucking equipment. He's got a brand new fucking pickup. Ford pickup. He's right now $50,000 pickup. He thought he was the cock in the walk, and he didn't let anybody think he wasn't. He's like, fuck you. Look at me.
Did he work? Did he work for his pickup, or was that something given to us by Grandpa?
His dad. Supposedly his dad bought it for him. His finance. Okay. But his dad had a trucking company. The only reason his dad would do that for a write-off.
That's so mean, man.
I know, but what the fuck, He said, well, I'll buy you a book for you. This is the payments. It's going to be in my name, and I get to write it off. And Dylan's like, well, fine, I don't give a fuck. You write it off. I don't need write-offs. I'm at a loss on everything I'm doing. I'm not going to make no money. It's all a loss, I'm making payments on tractors and shit, I got plenty of write-offs. I don't need that fucking pickup write-off.
Yeah.
Have a dad. You can have a dad. Just give me a truck,
Dylan just needed the help.
Yep. To make money in this world, I learned that a long time ago. I busted my ass. I had 8 children, a wife, and thanks to all the fucking bullshit. That, you think you're a man in this fucking world, and I struggled forever that way. And then I met somebody that handed me the fucking world, and I took it, and I made $200,000 in a year. I was like, what in the fuck? It's not about what you know. I was a plumber. I knew 4 different trades. I was a plumber, and a tile setter, and 4 different trades.
So a handyman.
Yeah, everything. Electrician. I went to electrical. Went to electrical school. All this shit. I could do anything as far as trades go, right? I was a bricklayer. All that shit. Because it always just me. I wanted to be that kind of guy. I busted my ass over to make money, though. Fuck. And I sat on my ass on a computer and made $200,000 in a year.
That's good. Kudos to that.
Well, I was like, and it's not, I was all the knowledge I had, all the talents I had. I couldn't make that kind of money. I couldn't. No way could I make that money in a fucking year by myself. If I Had employees I might have, but I wasn't going down that fucking road. So I already been, my father-in-law, he was a plumber. That's how I got in the plumbing trade with my father-in-law.
Charlena wants us to rewind.
It's always a fucking, they don't show up to work and you fire their ass.
I'm trying to get to the point where he talks about the product being good, and then she could explain. I don't think. Let's let her explain it before we rewind it again.
And I don't even know what exactly he's trying to refer to there. There was a few years when my mom and dad got divorced that we weren't with him all the time. We lived with her, but I've never known him to have any job on a computer. Okay. So I don't know what he's talking about with a computer. He's always done handiwork. He's always done stuff like that. He's done gold dredging, things like that. So I don't know what he's referring to with a computer. I have another uncle that owns a business that does do that stuff with computers and all of that, but he's never worked for him doing that I know of either.
So was he, when he was referring to meeting somebody that really helped him, is that what he was referring to as this job, right? Was that?
I would think so, but that would have been, you're talking about back in the 90s.
Okay. That's what we were trying to say. See, Black Dove, this obviously wasn't recent. That's what I was trying to tell you. It sounded like it was from before. Like it was when he was a long time ago, it sounded like, if you listen.
Yeah, my mom and dad got divorced back in 92.
92. Okay. What is the chat saying? Do you want me to play the part where he says something about the product being, let me just play it. It should be coming up, because if not, people will be complaining.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Kathy M. You're such a sweetheart.
Oh, I know. I'm just reading it for the see it stuff.
He said, well,
wait, hold on. I want to make sure I don't miss it.
I didn't hear it, but I
mean, I guess I definitely could have missed it. Because we're talking. See, we're about to rewind it. See, that's why I wanted to just find the original, guys. But you guys, I mean, we heard enough. Obviously, she just doesn't know. I mean, you know what I'm saying? She doesn't know, so she can't answer. But it's pretty obvious that he's talking about something in the past. So the question is, why is he so broke if he's making $2,000 a year, $200,000 a year? That was before. He's not making it now. So,
I want to address this because I've seen a couple of these. Goldie, we're answering all questions in chat. So
these are all, none of these are our questions. These are your questions.
So I guess you don't have any questions with purpose, Goldie.
Wow, we're trying to catch all the questions. I'm not like skipping over any unless she's already answered them multiple times.
Someone
These
will
are
always
your
complain.
Questions, people. Like, I think I only asked one of my own questions. The rest are all yours.
So Autumn Renee says, does she know about any horse trailers and bad things that happen with them? I saw some scary comments in chat about that.
There's been a few comments coming from things to do with the psychics where they talked about the wild horses and different things like that. So in trying to put together puzzle pieces, it was mentioned that there could have been someone who had a horse trailer who put Dylan in the horse trailer and took him. And of course, when you're in one, you can't get out. So that is likely where all those comments came from. Jim didn't own a horse trailer. There's no, nothing out that way. There are other people in Montello that have horse trailers, but no one can say for sure that that's happened. This is stuff, again, that has come from psychics stuff.
Thank you. Yeah.
Let's see about this.
Ruby, just a Texas medium, wants to know, does Chase have tattoos?
I am not positive. Normally he's very, very almost like sunburnt, very dark, because he spends a lot of time out in the sun. And I cannot say that I've recalled. I know he has some on his hands as far as I remember, but I'm not sure beyond that. I mean, he usually wore long pants and a shirt. So really the only thing exposed is from above his elbow down.
What about this? I didn't even heard of that, but I didn't hear that rumor.
Charlena says, so can you ask her about the sexual abuse that his niece and nephew accused him of? Are you talking about Kurt?
Oh, my cousin Alicia that made that nice little phone call with the PI. So she's got an older brother that did kill himself in prison almost 3 years ago. That cousin was a registered sex offender. He was registered because he molested several of us in the family. He went on after those charges and got married when he got out of jail, and then did stuff to that wife's older daughters. And when he left her, he ended up in North Dakota. He took another woman with him over there. And after being with her for several years in North Dakota, they had moved her teenage daughter with her over there, and he did something to her daughter. He was in jail facing more charges for sexual assault when he decided to kill himself in prison. My dad never touched that boy, ever. That boy molested 2 of my dad's daughters. My cousin is full of shit.
Wow. It's like all this stuff coming out.
Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah,
muted.
it's just a bunch of crap, and that's the problem. I heard that conversation with her, and when I see her, she's not going to like me. That was total, complete bullshit.
Wow.
And I know she's in drugs, and I know she twists shit, and she doesn't know half the time what she's saying, but that was all lies.
Man, wow, that's messed up. Let's see.
Well, when you don't like people, that's the kind of stuff you do. You lie about them. You twist shit.
And they have a platform to do it right now because the case has like been taken on. Instead of being about Dylan, it's all about Kurt this, Kurt that, which like the whole thing just needs to be about Dylan. But okay, so we're here to answer these questions. Little Southern wants to know, please ask her again if Troy had ever been to Dylan's farm.
No, he still has never been there to this day. No.
Okay. Would you say Dylan is socially awkward?
No, he's really not. He really wasn't. He would go in and sit in the restaurant part of the bar, and he would chat with people. He didn't have any issues with that. And it didn't matter who the people were. He would chat to them, and he was told, hey, those people, kind of avoid them. They're not good. Don't get in that crowd because that's not a good crowd to be in. But that didn't mean he wouldn't say hi to them.
Okay.
Yeah, because we were told that like it would that some people thought, or there was a rumor going around that maybe he was like on the spectrum. So I think that's why that was asked.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe so.
And I guess because this is so this was Mikalomos 369. We covered this in the beginning of the live. Please ask if Sammy's family is related to Dylan's families or have the 2 families been long-term friends, as has been stated during the original airing of this audio by Bella. Can you just quickly go over that again? And Mikalomos, sorry, I'm butchering your name. It is in the beginning of this too, if you don't get it answered properly.
After Dylan went missing, I noticed a woman with the last name of Cooley Wadsworth. I asked her about it, and she said she has married a Wadsworth. I don't know who that boy is. He's obviously younger, and we don't do family reunions anymore, so I don't know who he is. And I do have an aunt that was raised across the street from the Cooleys.
So how do you feel about Black Dove coming up and asking you a couple questions? Because they keep asking me, so if I don't at least
these are questions he hasn't already tried to put up in the chat and ask.
I don't know. Yeah, Black Dove, have you tried to put him up in the chat? He just got like this big following that if we ignore him, like everybody comes at us. It's crazy. Like if I can't even explain how it is up here. Like,
but here's the thing: I'm not on here to argue with people.
No, I don't. He's not argumentative. No.
Okay, I just know he does a lot with Doug's channel, and that's not the kind of rumorish type stuff that I'm interested in. So if that's the type that he wants to bring in, I don't want to deal with it.
No, he's not like that at all. I can assure you that. Okay. He's really decent. But okay, so let me send you. I'll email you a link, Black Dove. And maybe Bella put up another question. I'm going to email Black Dove a link.
So this person that is not Black Dove, but is named Black Dove, look at. So can you confirm? Can you confirm the 2 locations Dylan was seating? Are they Gamble Ranch and TL Bar Ranch?
No, it was actually Independence Valley out in that area. He did some work, and Bar O.
Thank you. Okay.
Black Dove, what is
the stuff with the gamble? He leased machines and different things to the Gamble Ranch and had a contract to do work with them. But of course, he's not here to do it.
And I wanted to address this earlier on, Unsolved Mysteries. Yes, she's met Dylan. That was covered in the beginning. I don't know why you're saying she's never met Dylan. Sammy, have you met Dylan?
Yes, he's been to my house. I spoke to him the Friday before he went missing, in person.
Thank you. And Jay Hughes wants to know, was Dylan a messy person?
I have never been in his trailer. I don't know that. That is not something that I was around to know. That is something that my dad has talked about. And he talked about how he would come in with dirt on his boots. And of course, when it's dried and you walk on a hard floor, it just falls off everywhere. He didn't always pick up his dirty dishes, things like that. So he had to have that talk with him of, you're 19, you got to clean up after yourself. You're going to make a mess. Here's how you do it. Clean it up.
And remember when Gloria Dellon asked about the polygamists? So this is her asking more on that. And she says, so Grant Wadsworth died in 1992. The family stopped living polygamy around 1908. They were next door neighbors. So I guess is it true?
We have polygamists in our line, yes. I have a great-great-grandfather that had 2 wives.
Thank you.
Okay, Black Dove, it's yours.
Hey, Black Dove.
Hello, everybody.
This is Sammy,
Hi.
Kurt's daughter.
Hi, Sammy.
Hello.
And no, I am not interested in rumors, speculation, conspiracy theories, tinfoil hat BS, none of that. I do go on anybody's channel, though, because this case, I'm not a true crime person, first off. I'm a tech nerd. So when I first found this case, it was by browsing on Reddit, and I randomly clicked on it. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. Here's this 19-year-old guy out in the desert since he was like 16 or 17, trying to farm. He's a high school dropout, which I am also a high school dropout. Apparently, he was bullied in school. I was also bullied in school. So I was like, okay, well, let me search it on YouTube. And so then I did. And then all this stuff with all these dramatic people like Jim Terry came to light. And I started watching. And then I was like, what is going on here? Because this is so convoluted and it's getting more convoluted by the day. And I'm just trying to make sense of it. Because I guess, I'm not on the spectrum, but I kind of act like I am because I'm a tech nerd. So I just wanted to try and clear up all of the ancillary extraneous stuff that doesn't make sense and doesn't really have a bearing on finding Dylan.
Okay.
So there was a timeline issue that I wanted to ask specifically to do with the psychic. As per an official timeline, I believe put out on the official Facebook, could be wrong. I always say that, I could be wrong. It said that that Kurt gave the tip that Dylan may be being held at Robert Avilas's place by Chase on Tuesday, which was one day after the parents went out there and discovered that he was missing. Then in the interview, actually, have you heard that 2.5 hour long interview with Kurt?
I've heard bits and pieces of it. I have not sat and listened to the whole thing, but it was not on Tuesday. And I know that. Kurt was out on the property, on Dylan's property, helping them drain the pond on that Tuesday. He doesn't have service out there.
No cell phone service?
His phone, he gets down there and he's too far away from that tower and it doesn't work.
Okay. Well, that kind of clears that up because in the interview, Kurt says that it was 8 days in that he gave that psychic tip.
Yeah, it was several days in. So he's figuring 8 days in, counting from Saturday, the day that he went missing, because his clock figures from the day he went missing. So it was later in that week when he called and said, hey, I just got this tip. And that tip was actually given to him from my other sister.
Wow, the official timeline is wrong then. It says Tuesday.
Yes.
It's still to this day says that he was last seen in Montello on Thursday. For some reason, they will not take my account of seeing him physically there on Friday morning. I
No,
don't know
they
why.
updated it. They have an
But it
updated
says,
timeline.
but if you read where it says that it's there, but they can't officially confirm it because the story keeps getting changed.
Okay.
No one's
Correct.
asked me. No one has spoke to me in that family and asked me. I tried to call Candace. I got brushed off. I've tried to talk to Justin. I've got brushed off. I've talked to Candace's sister. She listened to me the most out of everyone. And she actually was like, oh my gosh, I need to hear this. Please answer my questions too. And they still have brushed off the whole fact that me and my dad had a conversation with Dylan on Friday in person.
May I ask something? Why do you think that they would brush you off like that, since you actually were there and you're in the town and they're hundreds of miles away in Idaho, right?
I feel like because by the time I was trying to share this information, they had hired a man that knew nothing, that sat on a couch and couch surfed things. And this man had already come up with this theory that my dad was the one that did something to their son. So I don't think at the time they wanted to listen to anything that was going to come to do with anything to do with Kurt.
Fair enough.
I had a conversation with Jim Terry on, I believe, the 6th or the 7th of June. That man had some of the most ridiculous things to say to me. And I called him to clear up the timeline because I was physically there and I wanted him to know that the timeline he had was wrong. And instead, he went into this hellacious bullshit of my dad being a cross-dresser and being gay, and that he had proof of this by this woman in Montello that told him that she had seen this herself. And then he says, "You want to know this woman's name?" And I said, "Sure." Jim acted like I know nothing about this town. So I said, "Yeah, tell me the name." I laughed at him when he gave me the name. He told me it was Becky. Here you go. You got another druggie, another person who's another town whore, another person who has kids that are thieves in that town. He went to one of the best sources he could find out some false rumors from. So I tried to set him straight, but Jim didn't want to listen to me. I ended up getting frustrated with him.
Understandably so, but correct me if I'm wrong. Becky is the girl or the woman that both Chase Venstra and James Brenner had dated at some point, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that was his source for that tidbit of information?
Yes. When I spoke to him, yes, that was his source at that time, was from Becky. And I laughed at him. I said, "Becky, of all people. I mean, come on." And I told him, I said, "It sounds like you've talked to half the druggies in that town already and you know nothing because you're talking to the wrong damn people." But he didn't want to be a true PI and actually do some true PI work and listen. Instead, he had his own theory, and his theory was that my dad was Dylan's gay lover and that he did something to Dylan and threw him down a hole, mind you, while I'm sitting next to him somehow. That's how Jim started
full disclosure,
this off.
I'm gay, and that's why people like to have me on panels to talk about the gay stuff. So,
well, and honestly, that when Jim said that to me, and he even asked me, "How well do you know your dad?" I laughed at him. I was like, "How well do you think I'm going to know my dad? It's my dad." You know, he acted like I didn't know my dad. And the way he treated me was hellacious. I could not believe the things that he was trying to tell me he had proof of, which was completely not true. And he rubbed me wrong from the moment I started talking to him. He didn't want to listen to facts. He didn't want to know anything about the conversation I'd had with Dylan, nothing. All he wanted to do was tell me that my dad was gay, my dad did something, and he was going to prove to me that my dad did this. I was right there with my dad. I was in town from Wednesday to Monday of that week, right there with my dad. He never left us. He was right there with us. He didn't do anything. There was 15 people in town with us on Saturday.
It was some kind of family.
Yeah, a whole bunch of us went down there to go riding, and we had a trip planned to go over to the hot springs that are down there. Weather kind of went to crap, so we had to change where we went riding. But my dad was with us the whole time.
Actually, if you could clarify something about the weather since you were there, that would be really helpful for everybody. Because apparently Dylan had to move his grain truck into the grain shed because it started to rain early that morning. The day that he called his grandmother.
Yeah, and
then it started raining.
the way the mountains sit out there, you've got Dylan's on one side of the mountain range, we're on the other side. So the weather is not always the same on both sides. In Montello on Saturday, it didn't start raining till the evening. I was told by other people that were out in the Lucien area that it started a lot earlier over there, but their weather is different from the other side of the mountains.
Okay. So the other question that I really had was about the bombshell that Kurt dropped in that second part of the interview that was partially played. There was more about the $200K a year, working 2 hours a day on a computer, bringing in product. That struck me as very odd for Moltons. And, you know, like, I don't have any animosity towards anybody, really. Although, I mean, your dad did kind of say some bad stuff about gay people, but I can overlook that. I've been trashed before. But the thing about that struck me as odd is that if he was doing that, even if it was years ago, I can't imagine doing that back in the 90s, because I don't think the internet was even really like a thing till about mid 90s. Certainly not online businesses where you could pull down 200K. But if that's true, he also said in the interview that he can't like send money to his wives or whatever overseas. And I'm wondering, like, where did all that money go? What happened?
I would have to ask him. I'm not sure. I wasn't in that conversation. It wasn't part of something I was in. So I don't know what the conversation was that led to that. And I don't know that he's ever made $200,000 in a year. He's not computer savvy. So I don't know. I know he made money when he sold the bar, because he originally owned the saddle store and he sold it to Ellen. And I know he made money that year, but I don't know what that whole conversation was. I haven't heard the whole conversation either. I've heard bits and pieces. So that is something I will have to ask him about. I don't know.
I mean, I tried some stock trading and I lost my ass in a year.
He does not do anything with any of that stuff.
Right. It struck me as odd. And like, I'm not trying to, you know, have any animosity towards anybody. Right. So like, if you think I'm coming up here to start rumors or anything like that, I just want to get to the bottom of what's real.
Well, explain to me why it struck you odd if someone says they made money doing something.
Well, it wasn't somebody doing something 200K a year online for 2 hours a day. I mean, like, there's lots of things you could do. You could, I don't know, be one of those drop ship people or something. But he said bringing in product, that was the later thing that didn't get played fully. He said bringing in product and making it the best he could. And he said, you can guess what the product is to Salty. And then he laughed about it. So I thought that part was odd.
What I'm going to think is that he possibly weed is legal in Nevada. Marijuana is legal. And he may have been growing weed and selling it. He wouldn't have been doing that on the computer, obviously. So I don't know what that would have to do with that. But and that's what I don't know. I didn't hear the whole conversation. So I don't know if he was saying he could have had a job doing this and making this. You know, I don't know if this was a possibility of something that he was talking about.
Like, the only reason I stopped it is because on the video, you could tell I was going to go back and replay something again. So that was the only thing. I didn't stop it purposely to like, okay, I just want to make sure, because you know how people like to
But I got a pretty good memory. And he said,
I'll have to ask him, because I don't know. That's the thing.
He said somebody handed him the world in that conversation. And I was wondering who would have handed him the world to make $200,000 a year, because that's a lot of money.
He's met a lot of different people throughout his walks in life. I mean, some time ago, he used to be a gold dredger, and he actually dredged a lot of gold. That's the thing. It could have been that. He actually met a gentleman years ago that got him into the gold dredging, who actually gave him a dredge and gave him the opportunity to go dredging for gold.
I'm a bit of a gold bug myself, but it's coin collecting, not dredging.
Oh, he dredged. He did for a lot of years. And a lot of that gold that he had, he saved up. So I don't know. And that's the thing. I didn't hear the whole conversation for that. So I'm not sure what all that was. but I do know that he did meet that man years ago that did hand him a dredge. I mean, here was my dad with all these kids, didn't have a bunch of money, and this guy handed him a dredge and told him, here, use this dredge gold to make more money for your family.
Now, I do have a question about Don. His name has come out to be Don Hatley. Do you know of this person?
Uh-huh.
And his name is Don Hatley.
Yes.
Okay. And he's the one that was Dylan's other farmhand, other than Jim.
Yes, he actually owns the other round pivot line that's out there in Lucin that you can see on Google Earth.
The big one that's over the railroad tracks, just south of the Lucin Airport. That's the one.
I don't think it's south. I think it's actually east if you're looking at the Google Earth. But yeah, it's the big circle one out there.
Okay. And now your dad gave an interesting description of the encounter with Chase Venstra, which happened on Wednesday, May 24th, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He said that when Chase crawled out of the bush, all bloody with one shoe and a shirt around his foot, that he came up to Dylan's truck and asked him if he had anything to drink, and Dylan gave him a warm Coke. So, pardon?
That's right. That's what Dylan has recounted to everyone.
Okay. And was there any indication from Dylan as to why Chase would have been bloodied with a missing shoe, and also he lost his guns and his motorhome?
So we already knew that the day before he was out on the other side of the highway out by the Gamble Ranch and was spotted over there in camo with a gun on his back. Some people that work on the ranch were watching him, and they'd called the cops, waiting for the cops to come out there to get him. An hour and a half later, Elko County says, oh, we're not coming to get him. We don't have any warrants or anything. Let him go. So they let him go, and he took off running. What he did with his gun beyond there, we don't know. We don't know why he said
he's a felon. The law enforcement.
He is a felon.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's
and
a multiple convicted felon.
And he actually had a current warrant at that time that Elko County should have came and got him on, that Box Elder then picked him up on later.
Exactly.
But I don't know why Elko County didn't come get him. That's something they need to be asked about. Why didn't they do their job? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it sounds like they don't do their job quite often out there, and they let people go on warrants. Brenner had an existing warrant when he was finally picked up. So
I know. And there again, why didn't Elko County do their job? They knew they had the warrant. They knew where he was.
Now, if you had to hypothesize here, Dylan's grandmother, well, actually, Dylan called his grandmother on May 28th. And then grandma calls Don Hatley on Sunday, May 30th. But Don doesn't call back until May 31st. And I find that highly suspicious. And everybody's saying what a great guy Don is, and that, he's a hero for turning them.
Not right. So Grandma had actually called Don and asked him to go over and check on Saturday for Dylan. Don went over and checked and said, his truck's here. I don't see him. I'm not sure where he's at. So they again assumed maybe his phone was dead and he'd call back. The next day, Grandma called Don again and said, will you please go over and check? We still haven't heard from him. He went over again and checked and told Grandma again, his truck's here, camper's here. He's not here. And then Monday morning rolled around, and that's when Candace says she heard from JD, and JD said he hadn't heard from him. Grandma hadn't heard from him. So then they got a little worried and all went down there.
That's very important. So that means that Grandma actually called on Saturday as well.
That's what I was told, yes. Grandma spoke to him 2 different times and asked him to go over and check to find Dylan.
That could explain the discrepancy where Candace then says in an interview that they, meaning Don and Jim, I suppose, and an unnamed third party who has still not been named by anybody, but some people out there on YouTube apparently know who this guy is, were searching for Dylan since Saturday night, according to Candace's interview.
And I think something's wrong with that, because Don went over Saturday night to check. And then on Sunday, when he went back, Jim was with him when they went to check. There was no third person. There was no third person out there. I don't know if they are talking about a third person because of some psychic thing or something else, because I
No,
keep seeing comments about a jockey and whatnot. I don't know what
no,
that is
I'll
and where
tell
that's
you.
coming from.
I can tell you where that came from.
Okay.
That came from another YouTube streamer who, can I say their name? Zavgirl?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it's Crime Time with Jess. And see, I watch anybody, I'll go on anybody's panel, I'll talk to anybody. And she says that they know the name of the third person who's out there. They also know that Don Hatley is the name that was redacted from court documents. And they put this out there on YouTube, so I feel okay repeating it since thousands of people have already seen it. She said that there's a third person that would have known that Dylan went missing at that time. And they're not going to release his name, but they know it, which struck me as extremely odd.
And I think I heard that the other day, and I was wondering who she talked to find that out too. I don't know.
Well, she says she's in contact with the feds, so I don't know that they would tell her that.
And I don't think it would have came from that type of a source either. But I know there's another person that lives out there that she spoke to that claims she can basically see his driveway that lives up on the mountain above him. Yeah.
Is this Miss Lucens's neighbor by chance who said that Dylan was leaving every night and then returning in the morning for 2 weeks prior to his disappearance?
I believe it is. And the reason he would have been doing that is because he was working on someone else's farm at the time. He had to be out in the other end of the valley early in the morning on his tractor to work and was getting back late at night.
Well, I think she said he left at night and came back in the morning.
Then she's got something wrong, because it should have been the other way around.
Okay.
And there again, that's another person that I find is very suspicious. This woman that claims she can see his driveway and she knew so much about him, and that her son knew Dylan, or she has a son the same age as Dylan, but her son had never met Dylan and lives right there with her. I thought that was all kind of weird.
Well, that was Miss Lucen herself who has a son that's Dylan's age, correct?
Yes, the woman out in Lucen is the one who has a son the same age, and she claimed they'd never met, but yet she knew Dylan very well.
That's the one that was like rode up on by the guys on ATVs after this happened, that claimed to be Dylan's friends that were looking for him.
I am not sure, because there was an older couple that came down that don't live too far out there on an ATV that rolled in that was, looking around. I honestly don't think that the woman that can see Dylan's driveway has went out and looked for him at all.
Well, that's not the same woman. If the story is to be believed, it was Miss Lucen who said that her son was the one that was like ambushed by 3 guys by their generator house and then told to let them search their property. But she also said that her neighbor could see Dylan's driveway and saw him leaving at night and coming home in the mornings. So it's two.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It's 2 separate
two
people.
different women. Yeah,
the
but
woman that. Go ahead.
The woman that has the 19-year-old boy is the one that can see his driveway. She lives up on Lion Mountain.
I thought it was the woman who had the 19-year-old boy's neighbor who could see his driveway.
That's not what she said.
Okay, well then that's another discrepancy that needs to be cleared up.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many of those in this whole...
There's a lot of them, and that's what's made such a mess of this.
I agree, because the story, the timeline, everything keeps changing drastically.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a lot of things suspicious. And that's why we're doing this. It's like one of the only times you're going to hear, or so far, not one of the only times, because hopefully we can get more answers if they come up. But Sammy's here dealing with all this stuff so we can put some things to rest and actually get the focus back on Dylan. I know you've been focused on Dylan, Black Dove. I respect you for that. I'm not you know, I don't mean you when I say that, but a lot, and I'm sure you've seen it because you've been in a lot of chats, more chats than I've been in, that the focus isn't on him. And it's just a lot of conjecture. And I'm glad you're asking these questions because you do go to those chats and you know what everyone's saying and what
Yeah,
like the
because I
Yeah,
don't
there's all
have
kinds of
time to
crazy
go to
stuff
all
there.
these chats. So you know all the little all the ins and outs, of all these live streams. I don't know. I don't have time to watch them all. So I do appreciate you know all these details. So I have a question though, Black Dove. Isn't it already known though that Dylan did go and stay at Kurt's? I thought that so it would be. I mean, what are you
Yeah,
trying to
I
ask
mean,
there?
it was said by Kurt himself
Yeah.
and
Okay.
indirectly said by Candace in the interview. If you look at her
Yeah.
very first interview, which I was parsing last night, like that's what I did, is I parsed all these interviews and I came up with the discrepancies between interviews, like where something was said and then it was said differently later on. And Candace essentially knew, number one, that the saddle store is never open. And if she'd never been there, I don't know how she'd know that. But
Isn't that
she
the one that's
also
open
said,
one day a week, right?
She's just been told that because she's never been in the
Yeah.
saddle store. She's never been to Montello till Dylan went missing.
I knew that. And I was just told
Yeah.
that, and I've never been there. So she would know that probably just from having, you know, Dylan and
well, this was her first interview. It's the one on East Idaho News 4.
yeah,
Well,
but Dylan probably
that
told
wasn't
her.
the first interview, but that wasn't the first interview either because she did the stuff with Sleuth Mom before she was with Nate at all.
True. I meant the
So
first
that wasn't
mainstream.
her first interview. And there's been a lot of discrepancies that I've caught on to with Candace too. Part of the reason I didn't want to do any of these lives or get involved is I don't want to be stepping on feet either. I don't want to be pointing out things that she's said wrong either. But there's been a lot of things that I've caught on to that weren't correct. She doesn't know everything. She's trying to piece these things together. When you're in the middle of a tragedy like this, it's really hard to keep things straight. I can only imagine in her shoes how much harder it is to keep things straight. So she hears one thing and she knows one thing and then she hears something else. I don't know how she could keep everything straight. So
I think it's just innocent. Like, I don't think she's intentionally like hiding something. I think it's almost like having trouble keeping everything straight. And it's hard when you get up on a live, you do like, you get like, I mean, I can't even remember things, or sometimes, I mean, you get nervous a little bit, and I do this all the time. And when you're up here, she's not used to it doing these interviews. I could see kind of getting things mixed up sometimes, but I don't know.
And we all know that Dylan stayed in Montello. It was offered up to him. He stayed in Montello Wednesday night while I was there. Okay. It wasn't, he stayed when he needed to. If he had to drive from his place through Montello to go to Wendover to get groceries, if he was already in Montello and my dad knew he was headed that way, he would offer up to let him stay in his extra motorhome instead of adding 60 miles to his round trip. What would be the point of, say, Tuesday night, drive all the way back out to his place, 30 miles away, come right past Montello again the next morning to drive the 50 miles over to Wells?
Exactly.
That's a lot of fuel.
Also, yeah, it's a lot of fuel. And also, if those pictures of Dylan's trailer are to be believed, it was a hellhole.
And I've never seen in it. My dad says, yes, he was messy. And yes, his trailer looked like that. Maybe Dylan was fine with that. Not everybody's worried about what they live in. He always told my dad, that's just where I lay my head to sleep. I don't do much else in there. He worked a lot. He didn't care to take care of those things. He didn't care to wipe up everything and do all that stuff. He's also 19. How many 19-year-olds do you know that keep their place spick and span?
Yes, exactly.
And that actually was what Kurt had said, is he was messy. So
I
I didn't
know.
see the pictures. So
yeah, I was texting you like, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's confirming. Everybody's getting on us saying like he was just telling the truth. He's messy. He is. You saw the pictures, so it just kind of confirmed the stuff he was saying. And you're right. That's probably why he even liked to stay out at your dad's motorhome. You know,
Well, he had electricity. He had electricity
Yeah.
there. He had, he's sitting in the place where it's air conditioned. It's not 100 degrees in his trailer. If he was in his trailer, he had to run the generator just to have any power.
Wait, can I ask you about this? Because this is something that's perplexed me as somebody who has a generator himself for his house, and I know how they work. So Dylan had a generator for his camp trailer, correct?
He had a generator out there, yes.
Right, and you can't run those things for a very long time without needing oil changes, lots of fuel, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And in the pictures, there's a lot of perishable foods that are strewn about the counter, like milk, eggs, still in the carton, in fact. Hot
So
dogs
how do
in
we
an open
know?
package.
How do we know that he didn't put that stuff there that morning and then had to run out to go drop off his seed truck and never made it back to put it where it should have went?
That's
We
true.
don't
And I'm
know
not,
why that was there.
yeah, I'm not saying that.
He kept food in a cooler. He did have a cooler with him most of the time. And he would get ice when he was in Montello. And, you know, even like when he was out working on the ranches, he would take a cooler and some stuff to make some food while he was out there. A lot of his stuff was kept in a cooler. You can't run a refrigerator in a trailer 24 hours a day if you don't have to maintain, you know, like the propane and all those things either. Your propane runs out, your fridge goes off. So who's to say he didn't just pull that stuff out that morning and then realized it was going to rain and ran off? We don't know. We don't know how long that had been there. Nobody can say that at this point.
True. And the pictures of the trailer could have been post the fact that the family had gone in there and not ransacked it in terms of like, you know, destroying it, but, you know, ransacked it looking for something that would have given them a clue. Because they were looking for his people.
Listening to that live the other night when the first pictures came out and then they weren't shown and then they were shown later. And there was a video that came out where they had a person on the phone and then Doug privated it. I know who they were talking to. And what I picked up from that was those pictures were taken post. They were taken after they were down there looking for Dylan, not before. Even though Jim tried to make it sound like this was someone from Canada who came down to visit him and took pictures because it was so bad, but then made the comment
wait. Let me clear that up. The person that Jim is saying took those pictures is a family friend of Dylan's who's some soccer coach named Matt. I don't remember his last name. But he went there with the family allegedly. Okay. And they went into the trailer and the pictures were taken possibly post a mild cleanup that had been done so that somebody could use the bathroom in the trailer.
Yeah. And that's the thing. How do we know?
We don't.
We don't.
Like, simply, we don't know.
So, and I mean, honestly, I don't think that the trailer had anything to do with any of this. Just like I don't believe the truck had anything to do with any of this.
Well, I mean, the truck is it's a very interesting piece of the puzzle. Because,
well, explain this to me. But so his key fob was found in a pair of pants in his trailer. I believe it was the Thursday after all of this. So if someone used that truck, why in the hell did they go back in his camper and put his key fob back in some pair of pants in the trailer afterwards?
Okay, that is literally the first that the entire world has heard of this, because what I have heard was two different things. One was Candace Cooley saying in an interview that they found the key fob. And then later on, it was clarified that another key fob, like, you know, when you get a car, you get two key fobs.
Yeah.
A fob had been brought from Idaho to then move the truck after they busted the window out. If you're saying that the key fob was found in a pair of pants in Dylan's trailer, that is the first that the entire world has ever heard of this. And that is a huge bombshell for me.
Not the entire world. If you'd listen to the last interview that Candace did with Justin, with Nate Eaton here in East Idaho, she did not mention that he asked her a couple times the things that were missing. And she did not say that the gun or the key fob was missing. She said his wallet and his phone were the only things missing. So if you listen to those things very closely,
I did.
You would have heard she did not mention the gun nor the key fob. Justin sat in Montello and told several different people that he himself was the one who found the gun and the key fob in the trailer.
Which gun though? The one gun's still missing, right?
Dylan's pistol. No, his small handgun.
What?
His 40 caliber handgun was found where?
In his trailer. His dad said he found it himself in the trailer.
What?
Was it under newspapers in the bathroom?
No. I was never told it was under no newspapers. I was just told that he found it in the trailer. That it was found by him.
She told me when I had her on that they haven't found it yet. Right, Bella?
And here's the miscommunication things. Again, I don't know the two of them very well. I know they had a nasty divorce from what I've heard. I know that they weren't communicating the best. I don't know if Candace even paid attention or if someone told her those things. I can't tell you that. But I know that Justin sat in Montello and told people towards the end of that first week that he had found those things.
You're sure
And
they
if
weren't
you-
talking about the
if-
shotgun, right? In their
The
grandparents'
shotgun
house?
was in Idaho. The
Yeah,
shotgun
the
was in Idaho at Grandpa's house.
Mhm.
It wasn't down there. This was his handgun that was in his
Wow.
truck the day that he ran into Chase.
Where did they come out with this info, Sammy? You said Justin said this one?
Justin told locals in Montello.
Okay.
But if you watch the last interview with Nate Eaton in East Idaho, where Candace and Justin are together, Candace does not say that the gun or the key fob are missing. She just left those out. It was like they just totally didn't talk about them.
True.
I pick up on the
weird.
sense that she didn't mention that because Justin was sitting next to her and he knew he found them, but I don't know.
Wait, are you saying maybe she wasn't actually lying and she just didn't know, like when she did the interview with us? Maybe she
Yes.
just didn't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe she just didn't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how well their communication is. I don't know that part. But Justin had sat in town and told locals that it was found. Both things.
So
Wow.
Justin, his 40 caliber pistol has been accounted for.
That is what he told locals in Nevada.
According to Justin.
That's a
Yeah.
big
According to Justin, he
piece of
found
the
them.
puzzle. Like we thought it was. Wow. Okay, that makes a huge difference in the whole picture of how we're all looking at this. Okay. Oh
Yeah,
my
because everybody's
God.
been looking for that pistol thinking it's missing for
Yeah.
months now.
And that's the thing, if you truly pay attention to people's words, like when she did that interview with Nate, and I watched that one specifically to see what she would say because I knew that those things had been told to us that they were found, and she didn't mention them. It was just the key fob in his wallet. And Nate asked her again, just the key in his phone, right? And she said yes.
Okay. Interesting.
That
Wow.
is very, very friggin' interesting.
Oh
honestly.
my gosh. Yeah. Wow. I wish that Justin would speak on that, would, clarify that because that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, if you think about it, that clarified it in that interview. If you go back and watch that interview, they never said it was still missing.
Yeah, I watched that last night and I didn't pick up on the fact that they omitted those objects.
Go
Yeah,
back and listen.
That's interesting. Yeah. I'm going to do that as soon as we're
I
done
know,
here.
but she should have still said something though, because
Yes.
all these interviews she was saying
Well,
it was gone. So
But if you think about it, they're still talking about the truck and the truck this and the truck that.
Mm.
I spoke with Dylan myself the Friday before he went missing, and he told me and my dad he had pressure washed the truck himself. And of course he pressure washed it right there in his driveway.
You mean
and
in
you
his
told
driveway by
Candace
the
this,
farm?
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I called Candace and tried to
Why
tell
is
her
she
this.
saying-
And she
I don't-
basically blew me off. I
Makes
told
no
her
sense.
sister Danielle about all this. And, Danielle was really the only one who actually wanted to be interested in it. Candace did not take 10 minutes to listen to me. I don't
Does
know
she not
why.
believe you guys, or is she?
I don't know. That's a question for her. I don't know, because why is it that their timeline is still saying that the 27th is in question when I was there on that Friday and I talked to him?
Have you talked to the FBI? Did you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Many
Yeah,
times.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Many
wanted you to
times.
cover that too, because people were asking in chat why you don't tell the FBI, but you have talked to the
Oh,
FBI.
I've talked to them many times. I've given them statements. I have given them the names and phone numbers of every one of us that were in Montello that week. They have all of that information. They've spoke with my dad several times. I've
Melissa,
spoke with Box Elder County. I've spoke with Elko County. My dad has spoke with Elko County and Box Elder also.
Melissa, no, the shotgun was in his bedroom at his grandparents' house. She said in the interview with me, it wasn't in the bathroom. I don't know why everybody's saying the bathroom.
I don't know, and I've heard that too. But no, the shotgun was not down there.
Actually, I know where that came from. You could take a guess. I forgot who
Yeah,
said that.
that was in the interview just recently from someone too, saying that it was in there.
Oh, okay. This was from before, but okay. So somebody's even saying it recently. Okay.
Yes, just in the live I was watching from yesterday.
Ooh, question. How tall is James Brenner? Is he short?
He's not. And I'm going to take a guess that he's around 5'6" or so.
Well, that's kind of
Okay.
short for a dude.
So wait, he's
Kind
not.
of,
You
but
don't think he's 5'10" like the new
No.
document says?
I don't think he's quite that tall. I don't think he's quite that tall.
And what about Don? Is Don short?
Don's tall. No,
Okay,
Don's
Don's
tall. Don's over
Okay.
6 feet.
Don's a mountain of a man.
Don's a big guy. He's over
Okay.
6 foot.
Okay, so that kind of clears that up. Okay, everybody is stuck
This
on the
is-
height of James. So this is
And-
you've
and
Do you
been
know
very.
Don?
And honestly, why is anyone stuck on a height? Why does that matter?
It's because the truck seat.
Because the
what
truck-
Candace said about the truck seat, but I don't
Again,
think it has.
And I don't think the truck had anything to do with this. I even have asked the question in several of these things. So Candace's theory is they used his truck and then they pressure washed it because there was blood in the back of it. So if you pressure washed it and the blood fell on the ground in the dirt, it rained. I'm sorry, but blood doesn't disappear. It washes into the dirt. Why, again, did the cadaver dogs not pick up on that? Even if you just pressure washed the bed of a truck, a dog would still pick up the blood. You
Right.
can't just get rid of it with just pressure washing it like that. It takes special stuff to clean that stuff.
Hydrogen
only
peroxide
thing
or bleach.
The only
Yeah,
thing I can think of
something.
is the handler. Like, because sometimes we've seen dog handlers not pick up cues properly. So sometimes if the handler's off, then the dog, they don't pick up the cues the dog's saying. But I mean, yeah, that's something to scratch your head over always.
Mm-hmm.
You know what else is kind of weird though, Sammy?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Okay, so there's another discrepancy. In an East Idaho news broadcast, they discuss, and Candace talks about finding tracks, fishtailing that looked like Dylan's truck tracks in the wash, right? And I'm not sure which wash this is exactly because there's a bunch out there, but in the wash, there was a bunch of fishtailing tracks. Well, one set of fishtailing tracks of a truck that appeared to have been not in four-wheel drive. And she made a big point about that because Dylan's truck, when it was found with the seat pulled forward, as if a short person had been driving it, was also in four low, which you'd need if you were driving in the mud. But the transfer case was busted on Dylan's truck and four low didn't work. So maybe somebody thought that they were driving it in four low, but they really weren't. And this particular piece of footage has been scrubbed from what's his name, Heavy D Sparks's video, where he landed in the wash. And there's another guy. So do you know of two helicopter searches that were out there for Dylan? Because there's one from a guy named York who flies a Robinson helicopter, and there's Heavy D Sparks who has, I believe it's a Eurocopter. I'm not positive on the make.
And there's been a third one. There's been another gentleman out there with a airplane. But that wash is on the other side of the mountain range. It's a huge wash. It's very hard to get in and out of. And I don't believe that anybody was in that. Those tracks, I think, had been there for a long time. It didn't rain that much on that side of the mountain range. They didn't get the rain on that side that they got on the loose end side. So those tracks, I cannot say were fresh. No one has taken an imprint to say, yes, they match Dylan's truck tires. And I don't believe it had anything to do with his truck at all. And anybody that went into that wash had to come back out the same place they went into it. There's very, very few places to get out, and you can't go very far. You hit a fence.
I thought that you would hit the bike trail and head out northeast.
No.
If you
hit a
took the wash
fence.
to the road.
Nope. And you hit a fence. There's several fence lines that go down through that for property lines for when they run cows. You hit fences in that. You can't just continue to drive through it.
Now that is interesting.
Go out and walk it. Go out and fly it. I mean, here you've got all these people that are making all these comments and saying all these things that have never been out there. And that's the amazing thing. Like, they have all these assumptions of things. You go down in that wash, you can only go so far. You hit a fence.
Well, that was
okay,
actually
so you
said by
walk
Cal
over the
Portland.
fence. You can walk over that fence, and then you can keep walking. And so far down there, you've hit another fence. And you can't just drive into that wash anywhere you want, because it does slough off. It is a huge wash. You can't, there's very few places to get into that wash. I
So
don't believe
Mandy
those
wants to
tracks
ask,
had-
Did
Go ahead.
Justin? Oh, sorry, I don't want to get you off track of that. What you're talking about? Did you want to say something else
I was just
about
gonna say,
that?
I don't think that wash had anything to do with it.
You don't? Okay.
No.
Black Dove, did you think that? Is that why you asked?
Well, honestly, I don't know what to think at this point. I don't know what to think as far as whether Dylan's alive or dead. I don't know whether or not he was transported via truck via Robert Avilas's black Subaru. As Kurt did mention the black Subaru a lot in the interview, and that it has not been forensically analyzed.
It
So
hasn't.
I think that's. Do you know actually if Chase Venstra? Do you know if he had a white SUV, a small SUV of any kind?
No, he drove a motorhome. And nobody had seen that motorhome in about 3 weeks prior to this.
Whoa.
What are the FBI and LE doing out there? Are they looking for these things? Like what Chase was driving? I mean,
Yeah,
how much have they done?
We don't know. They don't say anything. That's the problem. And yes, I've brought to them that we know Chase had a motorhome and that's what he drove. We do know because of the different documents that have come out through court that they did find his motorhome. Obviously, that's the guy that took the guns out, that took him to his home, that they now have confiscated, that were stolen from Montello, were in his motorhome. That was all after
That's
Chase
right.
was in jail.
Right.
So we do know they have found that. They did mention that they found the four-wheeler that was out in the Lucin area that Robert had told everyone that he dropped Chase off in Lucin. They claim they had found that. So don't know. They don't release things. We have told them all these things. We've talked about these things. I mean, Kevin Bibbins, that just barely got brought up by the great PI a couple days ago, that was brought to light between me and the FBI weeks ago. So they've had a lot of information handed to them and a lot of things to look into. I cannot tell you what they've looked into or what they found because they don't tell anyone.
Which is smart. But
Yeah,
do you
they have to do it that
see
way.
them out there? Like, are they a presence? Like, does the town feel like they're searching and doing something for Dylan?
They have been out there a few times. When they roll through town, everybody knows. When you pull 4 to 6 big black SUVs and trucks through that town, everybody knows. They come through, I would say on an average, once a week, spend the day out there and roll back out. We don't know what they're doing right out there. Nobody's going out there trying to look at things or see things or doing any of that. They're respecting that boundary and staying away. I have heard from Dawn that it has been very scarce with presence of anyone out there.
I
feel like the FBI has enough that they don't feel like Dylan's out there and that they've got to be pointed in a better direction. Being out there and just walking around or kicking the same sagebrush for the next month isn't going to find Dylan either. There's going to have to be some different tactics used in this with the characters that they have in jail to get a finger pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I thought that as soon as they got these guys in jail, that maybe they would like say something, turn on each other, something. But you know what? I don't know.
So let me ask this question real quick. Did Justin directly tell you about the gun, or you just heard the rumor?
It wasn't a rumor. I heard it directly from the person he told.
Okay, thank you. And there's been no mention of police and vigilante group,
No.
or militia.
Can we address that?
There's no militia out there, but it is to where you have to watch your own property. And when your neighbor's gone and says, hey, keep an eye on my property, you help watch your neighbor's property. It's kind of like a neighborhood watch. You have to do that. There is too many people down there that are just coming in and stealing things, but there's no militia.
That was a word that was thrown out there and everyone kind of got stuck on that word. And then and I think even Candace was just really upset about that word. So she kind of like was very defensive, and then more people, because of her defensiveness, like honed in on that word. But yeah, we've said it here a few times. I've experiences with farms where there's meth heads and then farms, and that's the only types of people that are out there, are either ranchers or meth heads, and you do have to kind of run all the neighbors that are farmers have to help each other to keep their stuff from being stolen.
Uh-huh.
So
And
what
as
did,
you've
oh, go
as you've
ahead.
heard with the way Elko County is, you're not only an hour away from getting any help when something happens, but then when something happens and they come out, they don't really do a whole lot.
What do you know what Dylan pressure washed his truck? What day did Dylan pressure wash his truck? Where did he pressure wash it at? There's only 2 pressure washers, Dylan's and Kurt's place.
So it would have been washed at his place on Thursday. He was in town on Wednesday when I got there. His truck was there. It was there Thursday morning. He left after running to get a tool in Montello area. He went back out to his place. And then we saw him again on Friday.
Okay, that makes sense.
And some words of encouragement from NorCal Girl saying, please send Sammy our love for coming forward, and thank you, Black Dove, for your perspective. We need more fact-based conversations to help find Dylan, and I can't agree with you more, NorCal Girl. Thank you for that.
Yes.
And Amanda Joe, thank you so much for your super chat. This is a question for Black Dove, it looks like. Yeah. How can I find the picture you found of Dylan's farm growing in green?
Okay, so I used a service called Planet Labs, it's just planet.com. And you have to like make a free account, and you can go to the exact location of Dylan's farm, and you can pull up images. They're low resolution images. And this is the thing that really pisses me off, like horribly, actually, because if they were high resolution images that we could get of Dylan's farm in every single day that's in question, from the time before he went missing to the time after he went missing, we could see vehicles, we could see vehicle tracks, and it's not there. I've tried to look, and if somebody can do better, please do it and send it in to anybody, because the only thing that I can see from Planet Labs is that Dylan's pivot was active until mid-June in terms of irrigation of the farm. And in addition to that, Dylan's farm did start to grow, and it was green a little bit. And then they turned the water off sometime after mid-June, and it's dying off now, which is incredibly depressing.
I have a question. Was this
Yeah.
place you're looking at round or rectangular?
It's round. It's a
Okay,
pivot.
that's not his farm.
He had a pivot, though.
It just barely got put in, and he has a rectangular space of land.
Wait,
that does have a
hold on.
line on it, but it is not round. You're
Are
looking at
you-
the wrong farm.
No, I'm not looking at the one that's north over the railroad tracks. That one is green, and that one's still growing. There is a pivot that is, and I'm talking about like July 14th satellite imagery. Like, these people do passes every day, and they get it updated. There is a pivot, which was Dylan's pivot, and it's at the geolocation point of where Dylan's farm and his pond was. And it is sparse, but it did become green in mid-June, and then it's died off. And there was evidence of irrigation, because the track of the pivot, you can see it from space, shows that it was being irrigated as of mid-June. And then it stops, and then the farm starts to die off. But he
And it
did.
should still be being watered. They have Dawn looking over that and watering it, because it
I
had
thought-
barely been planted. We're pretty sure that the night before he went missing, he had finished his planting or was about done during that night.
I thought that the father turned off the pump to the pivot and drained the diesel fuel from the generator.
I've been told that the grandparents have Dawn looking over it and trying to keep everything going.
Huh. Well, they're not doing a very good job, because it's not very green anymore.
And and part of that could be the fact that it gets really, really hot. And, Don's trying to run 2 farms right now, which was not his intent. He's got his own to run, and they've asked him to help with that one. And I know they didn't fix the main line till mid-June.
I do know that the other pivot that you're talking about is approximately 1 mile northeast of Dylan's grain shed.
Yeah, approximately. It's over on the side of the airport.
Yeah, it's due south of the Ivo Zdarsky airport house thing, and it is just over the railroad tracks.
It's actually on the round one, should be on the same side as Ivo's airport.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's over the
Okay.
railroad tracks from the grain shed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one that I initially had thought might have been Dylan's farm because people were saying it was up there, but no, that is not Dylan's farm. Dylan's farm is clearly visible from space, and it is a round pivot that has been active as of mid-June.
It's every picture that I've seen, it's not round.
No, are you looking at Google Earth?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've looked at Google Earth.
Google Earth doesn't even show the pond or the vehicles or anything like that. If you look at Planet Labs, it's just planet.com, you can get daily images from all the way from like months before he went missing all the way to now. Like July 14th is the most recent one that I saw.
So were you able to go
and
back and see when his trailers were there compared to when they're not there now?
the resolution is not high enough for me to see vehicles, and that's what pisses me off, because I wanted to see if the truck had been moved, if the truck was clean and all that stuff, because if you were on Google Earth, their resolution is high enough to do that. However, Planet Labs, for the passes that they've got that I can see of Dylan's actual farm, which is the round pivot that was shown in Heavy D Sparks' video, that is not high enough resolution to resolve vehicles or footprints or anything like that. I wish it was, because that would shed a whole new light on the timeline, and it could potentially like blow everything out of the water.
Right.
But it's not high enough resolution. I've tried to get it.
Now, the other thing is that's Hill Air Force Base out there. Hill Air Force Base has satellites in the air also. And all of their footage was turned over to the FBI. So no one knows what vehicles came in and out, but we were told that theirs was good enough to be able to see that. And that's all been turned over.
They do have high res footprints of that.
That's what we were told. That is all Hill Air Force Base range out there.
Well, there's Hill, and then there's also Dugway Proving Ground, which is extremely secretive. That's southeast of Dylan's farm.
Out closer to the salt flats?
It's closer to Salt Lake. I don't know if that's where the salt flats would begin.
Yeah. But see, there again, we knew that they were looking into that through Hill Air Force Base, but FBI doesn't tell anybody anything, so nobody knows.
Nope. They're not going to tell anybody anything about the satellite imagery or the cell phone data. I mean, there's other stuff that they could be doing that I know about, because I'm a tech nerd and a plane spotter, and I'm into all this ISR crap. Like, they could literally be driving a truck around that town looking through people's walls if they really wanted to, but they're not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how they do that. But
it's because they don't have a reason to at this point. Or they would be. So, I mean, the few things that should have been checked in Montello, like, say, Robert's car, hasn't been. Chase's motorhome is not there. So
that's really disturbing, because your dad did bring up Robert's car many times as far as being forensically analyzed, which it has not been.
Right. And I can't tell you why. I don't know why they didn't. You know what I mean? Like, because even when the police came out and talked to them when they had that incident, when Candace and all them came to town and they went over there, they didn't bother to look in the car or do anything with it. Elko County didn't even care at the time.
No, they let him bust out the back window of Dylan's truck and then drive it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a lot of things in the start of this that could have went different, that might have helped play into this in a better way, but it wasn't treated the way it should have been, which I guess is normal. The cops normally just say, you know, a 19-year-old has the right to walk away and they can be missing if they want to be missing. I wish in this day and age that they would listen when they have so many people saying that is so out of characteristic for Dylan, that they would treat it differently, but they didn't.
Do you think Dylan is alive out there by chance?
It really comes down to knowing what happened. There's always that chance he could be. There's always that chance that he was taken for some other reason by someone that we're completely oblivious to. But, in the start of this, when we thought it was Chase and we thought it could be him and him holding him somewhere, then all of a sudden Chase is in jail. So now we know someone else has got to take care of him. Well, now Robert's in jail. So who else would be involved to help? You start dwindling down who would be there to take care of him. If they truly were holding him, I don't know who's left to take care of him.
Can I ask this? Charlene has asked this multiple times, so maybe you could just answer this. Do you think the Bergs are credible people?
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
No. Ellen herself sought me out after her first conversation with Jim Terry. She sought me out. I didn't even know she knew my name. And asked me to call her. And when I spoke with her, she told me how much she didn't like that PI and he was such an asshole and she'd never talk to him again and blah, blah, blah.
Oh.
And then went live with him and put my uncle on the phone and everything afterwards. No, she's not.
Wow. What? So Jenna's saying, wait, she started to say she knows the guy in Canada, didn't she? I don't know. I didn't hear anything. What are you?
No, I referred to the live that I heard the other night with the PI talking about how he has a source that's supposedly in Canada that was one of Dylan's friends that came down to visit him for a few days, but didn't like the living conditions, so left. That was what I said. That was not my information. That was from the live.
Okay.
And then I just want, our mods were also asking, I put it up, but somebody super chatted, I think I took it down. And so thank you for super chatting, Gen X. And they said, do you regret doing this interview because there's so much heat? But before you answer that, I'd like to say, I don't think there's a lot of heat. I think we're clearing a lot of things up. So I think this is, from my perspective, I don't see this being a lot of heat. But yeah, Sammy, if you'd like to answer that. Do you regret doing this interview?
No. And I pray that it clears up some things and people can start looking in the right directions for things and stop pointing fingers at people that had nothing to do with this. That's not going to solve this case.
Thank you.
And can you, there's been people asking this again. Dylan, do you know where he slept Friday night?
We are actually under the assumption he didn't sleep Friday night. We think he was planting all night. That was the comment that was made to us that morning, was he had to get back to his farm and get things done. We assume that he was on his tractor with his drill all throughout that day and night. That is something that Hill Air Force Base with their imagery could clear up. But of course, we're not going to hear that till everything's out.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gen X. Gen X says, no, I'm talking about her dad's interview. Which one though, Gen X? Do you mean like the phone conversation? Let me know in chat if that's what you mean, like the 2.5 hour. I don't know.
Is she also asking where my dad was that Friday night?
Oh, the other person? I don't know. Tiffy?
EB, I don't know. Do you want to answer that? No?
Answer what? I don't.
Where your dad was Friday night, I guess.
He was with us.
Yeah, wait, Saturday, Dylan talked to his grandma on Saturday
morning.
Is
when
so,
he talked
yeah,
to grandma.
yeah.
Which again, if he talked to grandma Saturday morning, nothing before that was in question. Why is it still in question?
Good point. I wasn't even thinking when people kept asking that. Yeah, you're right.
So she's saying, yes, the phone conversation. If you have an opinion on Gen X, do you mean is Sammy or does Kurt regret doing the interview? So do you think that your dad regrets doing the interview?
It wasn't even an interview. He didn't even realize at the time he was being recorded, to tell you the truth. And you got to understand, when my dad talks, he doesn't specify where he gets these ideas and things. And he has spent way too much time, in my opinion, watching psychics, trying to figure something out. He doesn't say, oh, well, I listened to this psychic and this is what she said, so now I have this idea. So he talks about all these things and these theories. And when you take all these things out of context and you take out the part where he says, well, I think this, or, this might be that, those parts, when these things have been replayed, I've noticed they've taken those out. So they're taking things out of context and making it sound like he said something in a manner that he didn't mean it. And that bothers me more than him even doing the interview with him. But it wasn't really even an interview.
Was he told at the end of that it was being recorded? Do you know?
No.
Okay.
And
I didn't know that.
I've had my ass chewings with Salty too over that.
Okay. Wow. I didn't know that. Okay. We have taken a lot of your time. So one question from Modest Man: does she know anything about the abandoned car found in Park Valley? And I think you were kind of talking about that early. Something.
That would be the white SUV.
Oh, who is that for?
That's the white SUV that Chase Venstra was supposedly driving that was found abandoned in Park Valley. That's the one he's talking about.
So do you know anything about that? They want to know.
No, nobody does.
Mm-mm.
Unless Sammy does.
Nope. And that's the thing, we're speculating on what their link is to Park Valley, other than the conversation that Chase had in front of Dylan with his dad that day that he ran into him, where his dad said, "Why aren't you in Park Valley? I've been there to pick you up twice."
Yes, thank you. I think we asked where about the Friday night.
And if Chase did have another vehicle, then he had obviously went through the causeway, which if you look at the railroad tracks and follow them to the east from Dylan's property, it's about an hour on a railroad track service road. You can be right over in the Ogden area. That's where he's from. That's where his family's from. So it didn't take him very long to get over there. If in fact he needed a vehicle or something, he could have. But nobody knows that.
Gloria Dellen wants to know, does she know if whether Dylan had a well or not? There's conflicting info on that.
Yes, he had a well. That is what his main line is. His main line had a leak, so he wasn't able to use it. They just barely got that fixed after he went missing.
That was what Kurt's Backhoe was on the property for, correct?
Yes, that's what they've been working on. They've tried to get all that main line up and going so that he could water his farm.
Right. The main line would be necessary for the pivot to function.
Yes. And that main line came right from, he has a well out there, and then they had the water in the pond also. What do I tell him? I don't know.
Did you put that up?
I did, because
they keep saying
they
that.
keep
maybe
saying
they
it.
I don't know, and I don't care.
So, Sammy,
I don't. Whatever you're doing is just. So tell Jess to get off.
Okay, so
go ahead.
Yeah, so Truth Shall Set You Free has said multiple times that Troy has been out to the farm, Dylan's farm. Do you know anything?
So
about
who is
that?
this person, and how would they know?
Let's see.
He has never been out to Dylan's farm. My
How do
uncle,
you know?
when Troy travels that direction, it's very seldomly when he goes into Idaho, and he goes right past there. He's never gotten off on that road and drove out there.
Okay. And yeah, I didn't know that he was. I was told that he knew that he was being recorded. I just saw that. Sorry, I was looking at emails when that came up. I was told he did know that, so I
not until after the fact. After the fact.
Okay.
Like
after it was released to you guys, to different moderators, and then it was played when it shouldn't have been.
Are you serious?
God. Yes,
oh my
I'm
gosh.
serious.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Gen X. Gen X says, thank you, panel and Sammy, for answering my question. Sorry to hear your dad wasn't aware he was being recorded. Everyone have a nice night. You too, Gen X.
Anyway, wow, sorry, I'm just like thinking about that now. I'm kind of like, what the heck? I mean, I knew he didn't know that, he didn't expect it to be played, I feel like, but then after the fact, when he already knew it was being recorded, and then I thought he was okay to clear up some things, but I didn't realize he never knew it was being recorded from the start. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and he didn't.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. So that's the candor that you hear in that too. He's just like talking. Yeah. All right. Wow.
So you
And
have
things are
any
taken out of
idea.
context. That's the biggest problem. Things get taken out of context when you have all these different people taking this section and this section, but they leave out the few words before and they play this section. It's taken out of context.
Well,
Oh my
may I
gosh.
say something?
Mm.
Go ahead.
To be fair, I have listened to every single Kurt Wadsworth interview that I possibly can. And I have listened to them in their entirety without any commentary or cuts or edits or anything like that, to the best of my ability. I was not on the call with him. I did not go to Montello and record him like that, but I have listened to them. And, you know, if I may be completely candid here, like, Kurt seems like a really interesting guy. And I'm not saying that facetious or, you know, to like jab at him or anything. He seems like a really interesting guy. And I've already said I'm gay, right? I've been known to wear women's clothing and wear makeup. So I don't shit if Kurt does that, honestly. Like, I literally don't. If he does or he doesn't, I don't care. What I do care about, however, is finding out what happened to Dylan Rounds. And in this whole shit show that this has become, because it really has, like, for everybody's involved in it, and I'm not really involved in it. I live thousands of miles away in Florida. You know, this has hit home for me in a way that few people could possibly imagine. Going through some health issues. I might not be around that long and I really don't care anymore. But the thing with Dylan is that he seemed like a really, really nice person. And whatever happened to him is, to me, an atrocity. And whoever is involved, it doesn't matter who it is. Everybody's like, oh, give Jim Brenner the death penalty, blah, blah, blah. Give him the death penalty, fry him in the electric chair. I'm like, no, I hope they don't fry whoever did this to Dylan. What happens is that he has a 300-pound, muscle-bound boyfriend in his jail cell, whoever did this to Dylan, named Bubba, who beats the absolute living shit out of this guy every single day for the rest of his miserable life. That would be justice to me, not giving somebody an injection or a firing squad and getting rid of him. That's too easy. Because this thing is too big, too convoluted, too weird in every single possible way. You know, and this kid didn't deserve this.
Not in any way.
Exactly. And I appreciate you for coming on here, talking candidly and taking questions, and for tolerating my questions as well. But the main focus of everything in this case should be Dylan. It should not be the feelings of the parents. It shouldn't be the feelings of anybody who's been dragged into this, whether it's Kurt, you know, with the drag thing or whatever. I don't care about that. I honestly don't. You know, like, everybody's butthurt feelings should just be put to the side. And everybody should think about Dylan. If he is still alive, this is something that I thought about earlier. If Dylan is still alive, somebody could return him right now, right? And the mercy of the court and the mercy of the public opinion would be like, you returned this person alive. Therefore, we're going to give you every leeway that you possibly can get. Hope that they do, honestly, because he would come back alive, whether he's been beaten or whatever, you know, all that stuff that's been hypothesized left and right. If Dylan is alive, just bring him back. No matter what, the person who did this to him has captured him, whatever, they would get the mercy of the court and the mercy of the public. But if they kill him, if they have killed him already, then there will be no mercy and there will be no forgiveness. And whoever was involved with this will be dragged down to the depths of hell. And I hope they do. in the worst possible way.
Amen.
Because this is not something that should happen to somebody as good and as honest as Dylan Rounds.
Yeah. No, we've always hoped too that if he's alive, they'd just return him. But
And do it quick. What's the holdup?
you know, there's been all that speculation of the sex rings and all those things too. Did someone capture him and put him in something like that? And I can't imagine that someone would come off the beaten path that far to even assume there was someone out there that they could take.
Right.
Without somebody noticing?
No, just in general. Just, I mean, this is so far off the beaten path to get out there. Why would anyone just assume that there's going to be someone out there that they could go and capture for some sex ring? That to me has made no sense. Like, that doesn't even. So he was targeted. That's the thing. He was targeted.
Yeah.
I agree with that, definitely.
Whoever did this knew him, knew where he was, knew of him. He was targeted.
And knew how to cover their tracks very, very well, apparently.
Apparently. And that's where I get lost up with Jim. Like, I didn't ever take Jim as being a very smart man. I didn't feel like he had it all together upstairs. So
well, broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, having somebody that has an anger issue goes along with that too. He's not quite all there. That's what he resorts to. That doesn't mean he didn't do anything, because I don't know. But it's hard to imagine he did it and was able to cover it up with this to this extent.
Right. And that's what your dad's kind of said too, is like, it has to be more than one person. Like, how could Jim just do this by himself? How could anyone do this by themselves? And it is really bizarre. There's so many, as we talk about this case more and more, there's more things that come to light that just has us scratching our heads even more. We think we're getting an answer, and then we get something else that's just like, really? Wait, what?
I know. Today, I just feel like with this, there's a couple things, like the whole gun, the key fob, those still are like kind of blowing my mind here. So Jim and Don are really good friends, right?
They have been since Jim has moved out there by him, yeah.
Okay.
And how long has that been?
Okay, there was two questions there. What?
How long has Jim, when did Jim move out there, like that he's friends with Don? How long have they been friends?
He knew of Jim prior to moving out there because Don knows my dad. So he knew of Jim before he moved out there. But after he moved out there is when they became better friends. And I want to say it's been about 2 years that he's been out there.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe 3. I don't think it's been quite that long.
Black Dev, ask your question.
I was going to say about Dawn, because apparently Crime Time with Jess has insider knowledge about Dawn. And she said, no, he's not a hero for turning in Jim's guns or anything like that. And Dawn has been on my radar, and everybody, including Ty Corbin, which I honestly, you know, here's the thing. I don't have any allegiance to anybody but Dylan. So Ty Corbin has been very quick to say that Don seems like a nice guy, and he met him, and he, you know, they met up on the Golden Spike Trail. Don was out looking or whatever. To me, Don is a major player in this, whether he's directly involved or has knowledge of what happened, simply because his name is the one that was redacted from court documents to be protected from James Brenner. So to me, Don is a person of interest who would have known that Dylan went missing. And if Dylan went missing and Don knew about this and he covered it up for a day and a half, that's a pretty big bombshell right there. That's a pretty big deal.
And I would truly hope that with the FBI, that this would have been something that they would have looked into. And I do know he's done a lie detectors test.
Don has?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, Don has. So
he was polygraphed.
Yep. Like, what was it, like a week and a half ago?
Yeah, about a week and a half ago. So if the FBI had something, Why hasn't he been named as a suspect? I mean, they've got to have something on him to name him that way. And they're the ones that have the best ability to do that. And if they have done a lie detectors test and they've done all these things and they've talked to him as many times as they have, and they still have nothing, I can't say that I can point a finger on. I just don't.
Wait, has anybody else taken a lie detector?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
That's interesting in itself. If nobody else has been given a polygraph test, then that's quite telling in and of itself. If Don is the only one who's been polygraphed, why was he the only one? And why haven't other people been polygraphed? You know, they're not really admissible in court because they're like woo-woo bullshit or whatever, and people don't really believe them. But, you know, I think they're pretty good based on what I know.
And no one knows if Chase or Jim or any of those guys have been, because it would have been done while they were in jail, and nobody knows that.
That's true. And maybe Don volunteer. Maybe Don's like, no, I'm not hiding anything. I'll take a polygraph. And that's why they just, okay. You know, because he volunteered maybe.
I think the cops called him in to do it.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Right,
I don't know
Sammy?
the specifics.
I believe they talked to him about it, and he just basically said yes, he was willing to do it. They didn't force him to do it, but he said he was willing because he had nothing to hide, and he drove clear over there into Utah and did it.
Yeah, so maybe he was the only one that volunteered. He just said they're willing.
That's interesting.
And what's interesting about it is that they, I guess, needed to clear him off, but this is after they had all of these people in jail. So it's like, now why is Ellie coming around going like, okay, Don, we need, you know, I mean, I guess to clear him, but still, like, it just seems like, gosh, I thought you guys were honing in on somebody and now you're going to get a polygraph from Don. Like, do you guys not know what's going on? I don't know.
You know, and I mean, they have their tactics and their way of getting information from people, but nobody can say what they've done or what they've used or what they know, because we don't know. All we know is one person has been named as a suspect, and I still have a hard time thinking that that person was capable of covering this up by himself. That's where I'm at.
100% agreed.
I can't say that Chase wasn't there because we know that Chase was left out there that day.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that it wasn't Chase and Jim together. You know, I mean, that's just what it is. I don't know.
Chase also got rides to Lucin from Robert Avilas during this time frame.
On that Saturday morning that Dylan went missing, Robert had admitted he drove him out there. He has never said what time it was, but he drove him out there and dropped him off by the trees, which is the pond, and Chase jumped on a four-wheeler, supposedly.
Have you heard about the backpacks?
I think that's all just a bunch of bull.
The backpacks full of stuff that Chase
say that I have heard, well, he had a backpack, but I don't know where it was found, and I don't think it was found anywhere near Dylan's stuff. Nobody knows where Chase's motorhome was found other than the law enforcement court documents that have come out that said it was over in Clearfield. But nobody even knows who took the guns out of Chase's motorhome at this point, because that name's been redacted.
What is this rumor that I keep, or is it a rumor that I keep hearing that Ty drove Chase, or was it Robert, to Dylan's farm at some point? Did you hear about this? Does anybody on panel, have they heard about this?
I have.
You have, Black Dove?
Yes, I have.
Okay, what do you make of that? I don't understand that.
Okay, so according to Ty Corbin, he drove Robert Avilas, not Chase, out to Lucin, where Robert Avilas surrendered to the cops.
Oh.
So he's
and
the
I
one...
can tell you that's not true. Robert was picked up in town at his house. Several vehicles rolled into town and several people saw them. He wasn't picked up out in Lucin.
Oh, that's interesting. Because Ty Corbin's story doesn't jive with that, because he said that he was with Robert Avilas, he drove him out there, and Robert Avilas surrendered to the cops at that time in Lucin.
No, I had heard that Robert was out there driving around the area in Lucin, and that was what made it very suspect to the FBI, and that's why they went in and arrested him. Ty wasn't out there at that point. Ty didn't. No. And that's the thing.
Haven't heard of that
And if Ty is such good friends with Robert, where does that put Ty? Here's Robert, one of these people that is in jail, who's got a really bad record that we know is that way. And now Ty's admitting he's his friend. Like, he hangs out with him. And the whole gunfight thing that Ty talked about. You remember the gun being pulled in town that he talked about on one of those shows?
The gun being pulled by James Brenner, a chrome pistol on Robert Aviles.
That's what they claimed. That's a lie.
Wow.
That incident was the other way around. Robert pulled a gun on Jim.
Wow.
And it wasn't a chrome gun. It was black. It didn't have a wooden handle. And I know who said that, and she didn't see it. It's secondhand information to her, too.
And because you know who gave the secondhand information, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I know. Again, that was to do with Becky, not a reliable source in the first place. The woman who gave the information to Ty had heard it secondhand.
Wow.
Would that be Robert Aviles' mother?
No. I know who said it, but I don't know that her name's been said.
But it was not Robert Aviles' mother who said this.
No. She may have said something
That
to
is
somebody too, but there was another person that claimed they had seen this themselves and whatnot, and it wasn't. And it wasn't that way. Jim didn't pull the gun. He didn't have a gun. That was Robert.
So
This
Robert
is how things
pulled a
get mixed
gun
up
on
in this
Jim?
little town. Yes, Robert pulled a gun on Jim. And it was a whole mix-up between Becky and Chase and Jim and Robert.
What to say?
And Jim's not in the drug scene. He was dating Becky and hoping to get her out of that. He thought he could change that somehow, which I mean, people that are in that for years, they don't just change because they start dating someone. But apparently Jim thought he could change that.
So Jim wasn't in the drug scene at all?
No.
Okay.
Was he an alcoholic?
Yeah, he did drink. I mean, I can't say he's an alcoholic because that's, I mean, I have an aunt that's an alcoholic and she wakes up drunk and goes to sleep drunk. There was a lot of times he didn't. I mean, he had to work and he wasn't drinking all of the time, but it depends on what you mean by alcoholic. But yes, he did drink.
Okay, so Tiff, what happened? Tiff left. Okay, so Mrs. Nikki says, ask her if Jim has said if he's seen Dylan that morning he spoke to Grandma.
Jim's never told anyone that. His story from the start of this was that he left the area where he was living in that camper in between noon and 1 and went over to Dawn's house for the day to barbecue. He claims he never saw Dylan. That was in the very first couple of interviews that Candace said. So that information came from her. Jim has never told anyone else whether he saw him or didn't see him or anything else. The timeline got changed later on to being that he didn't go over to Dawn's until about 3 o'clock, and that's because that's what Dawn said.
Gosh, I wish that we could get more clarity on all these things. I mean, it's just like it's bringing up more questions. Like tomorrow, I feel like I'm going to wake up with a bunch more questions for you,
Well,
Sammy.
I feel like they do have Jim in custody for a good reason. He is the person who was right there. He is the person that had the key to the gate. We don't know whether Dylan tried to call him that morning and he wouldn't answer. He ignored it. So Dylan took the fence apart to get in. We do know that he had to take the barbed wire fence down to get around the gate. That kind of stuff pissed off Jim. Again, that would have been motive for Jim. I just can't see that Jim would have done this alone. Was it planned? Is that why Chase was out there that morning? Like, I don't know. That's the things that have yet to be told.
Right. And we might not know that until, well, hopefully until someone's caught, and then hopefully it goes to trial. I'm just worried because so many cases that I thought were slam dunks, like Summer Wells, the West Boys, we just keep getting nothing. Like nothing's coming out of it. And I don't want that to happen to Dylan's case. I mean, I feel like it's such a small town. Something should happen. Someone should talk. Somebody knows. Maybe more than one person knows. And it's just frustrating because this poor kid minding his own business out there, I don't understand. Like it just breaks my heart for him. And that's why I'm really glad that you're here to answer a lot of questions that people have had, because it helps me. You've helped me tremendously. I think you've helped a lot of people in chat. I think Black Dove can agree with that. Like you've answered some of his questions. And Autumn Renee wants to know, will you ask if she knows who the horse jockey looking man was? I saw that question asked more than once.
And what picture are they seeing by saying who this horse jockey person is? Are they actually seeing a person?
No.
Or
I can tell you where that came from.
I think I know where it came from too.
It came from your dad's interview.
Because he did a psychic reading with Donna. And Donna, in her reading, said she kept seeing a wild horse. She wanted to know who owned a wild horse. That doesn't refer to a jockey. That has been twisted and turned and made into things that it wasn't. She simply said she saw a wild horse. And we only know of a few people in the area that have a horse that would be, what you would consider kind of wild. But there was a lot of other things that come up where people thought, okay, maybe she didn't, like she says, those references can also be for, like, someone said, how about like an emblem on a Ford Mustang or a canyon called Wild Horse? There's other things that could have represented. It never represented a person who was a jockey.
Okay.
Well, if you listen to the full interview with Kurt, he seems to mention a short and very thin, not James Brenner short and fat man who was horse jockey sized, and he gave a description. He also said, horse jockeys got to be really thin and light because they can't weigh down the horse and all that stuff. He did give a description of somebody who was a horse sized person that has not been named or given a face or anything to.
Yeah. And I think, this is his idea of someone else's stuff through the psychic stuff, saying that it had to do with a horse and whatnot. And he's just saying, if this person was like this is what they should look like. But this isn't a person. There isn't a third person. And this whole jockey thing needs to be put to rest. That all started with the stuff with Donna. And what he's referring to is just that. If it's if like Candace is saying, someone that drove the truck, they got to be short. Well, okay, so we got to have a short person. So if they're short, are they the person that rides this wild horse? You see what I'm saying? All these things just start kind of put together like that, and people start making comments, and he's reading comments, and he's saying things, and things get misconstrued. There's no third person that's a jockey. I don't know of any third person out there. We have had discussions about a gentleman that's a homeless guy that lives out on Kevin Bibbin's property that is very threatening to people out in the area. He has to walk from the end of that road, I think it's about 12 miles or so, down to the Lucin Ponds to get water. If someone drives by and doesn't pick him up, he threatens them. This guy's a shorter guy. He's very thin. We have brought him. We only know a first name, but we've told the FBI. I can't tell you if the FBI's went out there and checked into that. I don't know. But that's another person that we've brought up with the FBI that's out in that area that, who's to say he didn't have something to do with it too? We don't know.
Well, there was something about that, about a third person, specifically not the horse jockey sized guy. But there is supposedly a third person that Crime Time with Jess knows the name of. And she has explicitly stated that person should have known that Dylan was missing the day that he went missing. in addition to Dawn and Jim, this person, according to her, and I'm only repeating what I've heard, not stuff that I've gotten firsthand or anything. She says she's in contact with the FBI, with the sheriffs and all that good stuff, and that there's a third person in addition to Don and Jim who they refused to name on their stream that would have known that Dylan was missing that day. She didn't elaborate. She didn't say what exactly he does out there or anything like that, but she did say that there is a third person, which I found very, very odd. Especially since they wouldn't name him.
I thought your audio went.
Thank you, Rocky Kane. Oh, did we lose
Yeah, I think so.
Sammy? Sammy's been on for 3 hours, you guys.
Yeah.
She might come back. But thank you, Rocky K9, for your super chat. Oh, she's
back. Yeah.
I don't know
Okay,
what
you're
happened
back.
there. Just all of a sudden, I couldn't talk. I could hear, but I couldn't say anything. It wouldn't.
It happens sometimes. Don't worry about it. So that what does it say? Done only by a previously convicted person. I'm confused on the question. Cleaning all evidence without any trace could be done only by previously convicted person. Sadly, well done. But thank you, Rocky K9, for the super chat.
And I didn't hear the last of what Black Dove was saying there. He was talking about that third person again that Jess has alluded to, which I can kind of in my mind think about who I think that is, but I am not sure.
Right. She did say that they know the name of this person, but they would not release it on their stream.
Mm-hmm.
She said she emphatically knew.
And there's been another person that she's been in contact with out there, and I know who it is, that has made comments about how they know Dylan and that they can see his driveway and different things like that. So I don't know if it's possibly that person. Because, I mean, obviously, if that person can see his driveway, don't you think they would have noticed something? But the thing is his truck was parked that morning. He left that area where his campers were early in the morning in the seed truck, and I don't believe ever made it back towards his campers.
So you know that Dylan had his seed truck at his camper area and then drove it to the grain shed?
Yes, that's where the seed truck was. My dad had seen it out there the couple days before when he was out there. He had brought his grain down. It was parked there. He was planting. He was drilling and getting ready to put all that seed in the ground. He drove the truck from down on his farm, on his property, to the grain shed that morning.
Hmm.
I don't care. Go ahead.
Wow. I mean,
Anything else?
Was that the same morning that he called Grandma and said he had to get the grain truck into the shed?
Yes.
Okay.
So maybe we could kind of wrap things up with maybe a couple more questions, because she's already given us over 3 hours of your time. See, I appreciate that, but I'm sure you probably gotta go, or how are you feeling?
I need to here sometime soon. I've got to get to bed. I do have a job.
Thank you so much for all your time. I think we'll just throw up a couple of questions and then let you go. We really do appreciate you taking the time and being so patient with everybody and with us and with everyone on panel. You guys, for anyone who said she had an attitude, I didn't sense an attitude. Black Dove, did you sense an attitude?
No.
Oh, I thought
Tiff?
she answered it. No, not at all. You answered every question. No attitude at all. That's why I was confused reading those comments. I'm like, what? There was no attitude. So they're like, why is she getting so mad? I'm like, I thought you've been great actually answering all the questions. You've been calm and really awesome.
And truly when I get frustrated, it's because people don't know my dad. They don't know his, the way he talks and the way things come across with him. And he is from that older generation where things are totally different than what we are. And they take these things and they pick apart things and they attack him, and it's for no reason. So yes, I get defensive with that. But the other thing is I know for a fact he didn't do anything because I was physically there. So when
Thank
those
you,
questions,
yes.
when I get asked 15 times, where was your dad? I have said this and said this and said this. I was physically there with him in that town with 15 other adult people.
Everybody hear that? So that's
I
very
mean,
important detail
it,
for.
it is important, and it's tiring to answer the same questions over and over. I know, this case has taken us, me and Tiff, out of our normal, like, very polite selves, because it just seems like people want a square peg to just fit into like a round hole. No matter what, they want to shove it in there. We're not
Mhm.
saying trust all these people. We're saying, hey, look, here's another way of looking at something. You've heard from people that don't know the Wadsworths. Now let's hear from the Wadsworths.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
don't know why everyone, like, just open your mind and listen to it. And then when I say open your mind, people are like, oh my God, we had our mind open. She's telling us to open our mind. No, it's not. If you take everything I say personally, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, there's a lot of people here. There's right now 880 people. I'm not talking to one person in particular, but this was
Let,
very valuable.
No, it was very valuable. I'm going to probably listen to it again, if not tonight,
Mhm.
tomorrow for sure. I have to listen back because I got kind of sidetracked with chat. Sometimes I missed everything you said. Not everything. I missed something you said that came up. So wait, can you answer this? Did you answer that
Sorry.
when the Tom Hardy? Maybe I went to use the bathroom. Did you answer the question about Tom
Mm-mm.
Hardy?
No,
No.
Where did you put it, Bella?
I just hit it because I put this up. But who's Tom Hardy? That's what they want to know. Irene Gomez.
So he's an older gentleman that lives out there in Montello that is mixed into the drug scene and has been good friends with Chase since he's been out there. He has allowed Chase to park his motorhome on his property. There has been people that have had to go chase down that motorhome to get back their stolen property, and that's where it would be parked, his house or at Paul Toshak's. Robert's been known to hang around with all of them. They're all kind of in that same group of friends.
Okay, so does he have a record? Does he have a violent past? Do you know? I mean, did
He
you
has a record too, yes.
Okay. And Lauren, why do you think we're biased? Anybody's welcome to come up here and talk.
And we respect everyone who's been up here. So I
Yeah,
don't
we
know
just
why you would.
respect them.
You must not have watched a bunch of our
Can you?
streams.
We could say the same thing like about some other people where you're biased. I'm trying to keep an open mind. Anybody wants to come up here and talk, or does Ty want to come? Anybody? I don't care. Nobody's contacted me. I let whoever wants to come up that I feel that could help and add some value to come up. I've never denied anybody, so
What
I'm not
side do we lean?
biased.
What side do we lean on, Lauren M? And what side do you lean on? Because I'm on
Yeah,
Dylan's side.
exactly. I
Tiff's
feel
on Dylan's side. I have no idea whose side you're on if you only see a biased side. I'm sorry.
yeah. I'm just trying to
I
listen to
don't think
what.
anybody should give a shit about anybody's feelings except Dylan.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Tula Bear.
Thanks to the
Love
bear.
you.
I know this was very informative, Karmic Vibes. I agree. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
I
you,
hope
Hope Reigns. Go
I
ahead,
hope
Sammy.
that people can start putting their focus on actually truly trying to look at the few facts that we have to go on, not the rumors and not all of that other crap. We only have a few facts to go on. And truly, the FBI has those. And
God, I hope so.
I've given them to them. So I hope and pray that they can do their job and that they can solve this sooner than later. Life still can't go back to normal. That's pretty obvious for a lot of us. But something's got to give. Like, this is just too much.
Oh, I agree. One side hearsay. Lauren, read my comment because I don't know. I wrote back to your question. I don't think I ever said anything as hearsay.
I don't think we've ever said hearsay out of our mouths. That's all been in chat.
Like if we have guests up, you got to remember any guests we have up anytime, we don't take on their beliefs. We're just trying to listen and be as fair as possible. It doesn't mean whatever anybody says that it means we say that or we believe it.
And I
Keep
want to
that-
know if Lauren is on Dylan's side. That's what I want answered. She's making a lot of accusations or assumptions. I'd like to know what side she's on.
Thank you, Lucas Boyd. Okay, so you want to put up? I don't know. We could probably just end it now. See, I mean, do you have
Yeah.
anything to say to end?
I don't think so. I'm tired of being on the defense with all of this. I wish people would actually stop with the crap with this PI. He's been fired. He's not on the case. He has no reason to be involved in this in the manner that he is. He's truly not trying to look for Dylan. He's looking for money. And I'm tired of all the people the characters that he brings into this that help benefit him in that, when it's taking away the focus of truly what this is about. Like, we need to figure out where Dylan is, not that someone's gay or not gay or cross dresses or things like that. That doesn't find Dylan.
I agree. Thank you. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for coming out. Most of you guys have been awesome in chat. Thank you, mods. Thank you, Sammy.
Sammy, seriously, thank you so much. This was done on the fly, you guys.
Yeah.
This was not something that was planned. There was, she got on here to speak this, and we've learned a lot. I think everyone on panel is going to go back and listen to this. It's going to take a little bit to get through. And everyone in chat, this, I've seen people ask that. This will be left up. Everything that Tiff does is left up.
Yeah, I never take anything down. The only thing I put behind a members wall or whatever you call it, paywall, is something that I had promised in order to play it after. But the original was out for everybody, and then after I uploaded, I had to put it behind a members. But it's still up. It's $1.99 to be a member, and so it's not like it's this big thing. But no, I don't take anything down unless if like a YouTube, if I get a strike or something that they take down, or I have to take down from a copyright. But yeah, I've never done that, so I'm not sure why people keep saying that. But
thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Black Dove. You asked some great questions because you know a lot of the little ins and outs from all these other channels that I haven't kept up with. So thank
Well, I mean,
you.
I try to watch everything, and I try to watch it with a critical eye, and I try to be as unbiased as I possibly can be. So the only bias that I have is towards finding Dylan hopefully alive and bringing him back, because that, I think, would be the greatest thing for everybody here.
I mean, it would be
You know.
amazing. And
Oh,
we
it would be.
appreciate that because I can speak for Tiff. Me and Tiff do not have the time to listen to everyone's live. So it's really good that you do.
I know. I've tried. I mean, I try to listen to what I can, but I have my family.
Yeah, fortunately, I'm unemployed,
other things
so I
going
can
on,
listen to everything.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And I'm glad that this touched your heartstrings, Black Dove, in a way that maybe, we don't even know the reasons for that yet. And maybe you could be a catalyst to bringing some justice to this, because sometimes that's what happens in these cases. There's certain cases that really tug at us or we relate to, and we can see ourselves in similar situations. And that's very valuable. So thank you.
Well, I mean, that's pretty simple. Like, I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there about me now too. Like, I don't own a computer, which I do, and all this other crap that people are. Yeah, there are. There's people that have.
You don't own a computer, but why would that even, why would people say that? I'm confused.
Somebody said, well, isn't it weird that Black Dove is a tech nerd, but he doesn't own a computer? I own a fantastic computer. But the thing about that is I call in from my freaking phone because I don't want to sit in front of a computer. I like to walk around when I think and talk.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
It's not a big
that right there is exactly how rumors get started.
Exactly.
Yes.
No, and I agree. And you know what? If your dad, if your dad is completely in the clear, great. But I'm not writing anybody off of any list. And I'm looking at everybody with a scrutinizing eye, because the only person in this entire shit show has become that actually matters and whose feelings matter is Dylan. I'm sorry if I step on toes when I say things. I'm sorry if people think that I'm a Jim Terry acolyte or something, which is not true. Like, people have accused me of that. They've accused me of not having a computer, all this other stuff. It's like the only thing that really matters is bringing Dylan home, hopefully alive. And
That'd be
if
so
somebody can
awesome.
do that, I would give anything for it. I've already offered, like, your dad is a gold bug. I know, Sammy. And I collect gold, platinum, and silver coins. And I said, you know what? He knows something. If he's willing to give Dylan up or whatever, for whatever reason, if anybody knows anything, I'll empty my fireproof, bomb-proof safe and give it all to them just to bring Dylan back alive. I don't care anymore. Like, I don't follow true crime. I don't give a shit about true crime. The last crime that I looked into with any kind of, like, interest was the Las Vegas shooting, because none of it made sense. Just like none of this makes sense at all. Nothing about Dylan Rounds going missing makes any sense to me. And that's why I got drawn into this. And people are like, come up on the panel, talk on the panel, call in. And I'm a shy person. I don't like to call in. I've never called into anything except to record, or to request rather, some freaking 80s music on Friday night 80s on my local music station.
What song?
I'm not even joking. Like,
What
I don't
song
care
was it,
about
Black
it. Pardon?
What song was it, Black Dove?
Usually something by Pete Burns.
Really? Okay. Talking Heads fan. Okay.
No. Pete Burns was not talking.
Oh
Heads.
yeah, you're right. You spin me right round, baby. Yes.
Exactly. All of
Okay.
his music. He was my inspiration a long time ago. But, this whole thing with Dylan Brown, like, consumed my life in a way that I didn't think was possible. And it's mostly because I identified
what these cases do to us. I know they.
Well, I mean, you're
it's
not a
crazy, but
19-year-old guy who was potentially in the closet or whatever, who dropped out of high school when you were 16. Bam, and I was. Like, I did. Like, I was an in the closet gay person who dropped out of high school when I was 16 years old. And that was the clincher when Jim Terry started saying all this stuff about him being potentially gay or whatever. I was like, wait a minute. Did somebody use him? Did somebody hate crime him? Did somebody abuse him? What happened here? And I want justice for him. If that means that he's dead and somebody has to, like, forward or be beaten by Bubba for the next 20 years while they live out the rest of their miserable life, great. But hopefully he's alive somewhere and they can bring him back. Because there's nothing that anybody in this chat would want to see more than Dylan Round being alive somewhere, coming back and saying, hey, I'm here.
I seriously
we
would
all
love.
want the same. Well, I guess not all, but most of us want the same thing. We would love to have him back alive.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like the ultimate ending, but.
And if that happens, you guys, if for the grace of God that happens, we all need to plant some trees around his lake like he wanted.
Yeah. And put fish in it. He wanted fish in his pond.
We all need to come up with the money, and we'll start a PayPal for him and get him the trees and the fish. Yes. That's what we need to do if he comes out of this.
I thought if he was dead, that the best thing to do would be to put a gigantic statue of him with his arms crossed, his sweatshirt on, and his hat, standing there in the middle of Montello, that nobody could really vandalize because it's made out of like solid bronze or steel or something. And that would really piss people off who did this to him.
That would. Yeah, make sure that it cannot be taken like by the meth heads, make sure it's really something strong. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Well, I hope he is found alive, but if not, maybe we all could pitch in for something to remember him,
I hope to God that he is, so we can do that. And you guys, if that happens, we have to make that happen. We have to get him his trees and his fish, and we will.
We could definitely. I think it wouldn't be a problem at all, to be honest.
Yeah. So we'll let you go, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Guys.
Thank
Bye,
you, guys.
everybody.
Thank you for having me up. And Sammy, thank you for for answering my questions. I really
You're
do
welcome.
appreciate it.
You're welcome. I just hope it starts shedding some light in more areas where it truly needs to be shed.
I hope so too. I think it
Amen.
did, at least to most people. But okay, thanks. Bye. Thank you, chat.
Thank you.
You guys have been
Yep.
awesome.
Thank
Bye,
you,
Bye.
mods.
everybody.
Thank you to the mods for tolerating everything.
Yes, you
tonight.
guys had a hard day today. My 2 lives. There was a pretty busy 2 lives. So thank you. But I think chat's been pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
What I expected, I guess. I didn't expect anything less.
Yeah, no, they were good.
Oh,
And
yay! I wanted to say hi to you earlier, but there was always, something going on. I didn't want to interrupt anything. So
it's a busy.
and I didn't get to thank a lot of the super chats vocally. Thank you guys so much. I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt the thought process and the process, of whoever was talking and interrupt that, because I know how I get sidetracked and then I freaking forget. So, and thank you, Bella, for coming. And yeah, I'm gonna end this. Bye, everybody. Oh, and we tried to ask all the questions. We really did. That's what I was doing most of the time, is starring the questions, trying to get as many asked as possible. So if I didn't get them asked, I apologize. We tried. There was a lot of
Yes.
questions. She couldn't ask them all. And then there was a lot of repeats. So she did answer them a couple times. But I tried my best. I wasn't trying to avoid any questions or anything. I was trying to put as much as I could. And then we had Black Dove up. He had a lot. So I couldn't ask really many more questions because he kind of took over. Not in a bad way. I'm just saying he took over with the questions. So we didn't get very many other ones of you guys. But all of those questions were yours. So if anybody has complaints about what we asked, it's you guys. There was your questions. I only asked one of my own. So that goes to show you those were your questions. So hopefully you guys are happy with what we were able to ask. And bye, everybody. Yeah, bye. Have a good night.
Thank you guys so much. Good night.